like to welcome everyone to this council meeting, and please be patient with us as we may have some technical issues as we go through. Ever since we've been doing this electronically, we have from time to time experienced electronic issues, so that may happen again tonight, and we're hopeful it'll be smooth, but we've often met challenges, but we'll overcome those. So we're going to begin with a roll call, and I'll turn it over to our Legislative Officer, Jade Brown, to conduct that.
Thank you, Your Worship. When I say your name, please acknowledge so that I can hear you on all ends of the stream. Councillor Allen?
I am present.
Thank you. Councillor Balsam?
Present.
Councillor Lalonde?
I'm here.
Councillor Marr?
Yes.
Councillor Murphy?
Yep, I'm here.
Councillor Peddle?
I'm here.
Councillor Stroud?
I'm here.
Councillor Voyageur? Mayor Scott, Councillor Voyageur is not connected, nor is Councillor Ingalls or Councillor McGrath. Mayor Scott, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to welcome everyone and say good afternoon. As you're aware, this meeting is being conducted through electronic communications, with all members of council participating by electronic means, either by video or teleconference. We will be going to each council member alphabetically by surname when doing the roll call, as you just saw. For questions and debate points of council, whenever possible, we're going to use the raise your hand feature, but we've done some experimenting with that, and that may be a challenge. So we will do our best to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to participate. To ensure an orderly process for motions, I will call upon a councillor to make each motion and a councillor to also second the motion. I'd like to also begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 8 and unceded Métis territory. So prior to going into council business, I'd like to explain the process for this meeting, which is being conducted through electronic communications as pursuant to Meeting Procedures COVID-19 Suppression Regulation Order in Council 99/2020. I received a question this week about whether that was our order in council, and just so everyone knows, that is a provincial regulation. It is not to do with the municipality. It's a provincial regulation. So I just hope that answers some of the questions that have been coming up. Members of the public were invited to pre-register by noon today, September 8th, 2020, if they wish to speak to an item on the agenda via teleconference. During the meeting, members of the public who would have participated in person as delegates but have not registered to speak via teleconference are invited to submit their written comments to legislative.assistance@rmwb.ca with the title of the agenda item in the subject line. Please note that you must include your name in the email. All written comments for an agenda item must be received prior to the start of that item. Emails that are received after the agenda item has been introduced or are not relevant to an agenda item will not become part of the record of the meeting and will not be read aloud. Please note that all written submissions are public and will be shared with council verbally on the record during the meeting. Each submission will be shared verbally with council by having a member of Legislative Services read the submission aloud for a maximum of 5 minutes. Registered delegates who are speaking via teleconference are permitted up to 5 minutes to speak and must remain on topic. At this time, I'd call upon Councillor Lalonde to make the motion to go in public.
I make the motion that we reconvene in public.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marr, would you second the motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. So the way we're going to conduct votes whenever possible is I'm going to say, is there anyone in opposition? Please say so now, which we will do for this vote. And if we hear an opposing person, then we will go through the individual list. So is there anyone in opposition? Not hearing anyone oppose, that is carried unanimously. So next we're going to move to the adoption of the agenda. And this is where a member of council can serve a notice of motion should they wish to do so. Is there any member of council who wishes to serve a notice of motion? Not hearing anyone speak. At this time, I would call upon Councillor Marr to make the motion that the agenda be adopted.
I move the agenda be adopted, Mr. Mayor.
And I call upon Councillor Murphy to second the motion.
I second that motion.
Thanks for that. And is there anyone in opposition? Please say so now. And that is carried unanimously. Now we're moving to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, we will call upon Councillor Murphy to make the motion.
I move that the recommendations contained in items 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4 be approved.
And I call upon Councillor Peddle to second the motion.
I second that motion, Mayor Scott.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone in opposition to this motion? Hearing none, that is carried unanimously. Next, we have a proclamation, and this is a very important proclamation. I want to take a moment and just acknowledge that many councillors do a lot of good work in our community, and this has really been driven by Councillor Murphy. So many thanks to Councillor Murphy for driving this important initiative. So this is a proclamation for Think Pink Week. Thousands of women, mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, friends, neighbors, and co-workers are affected by breast cancer every day. 1 in 8 women in Alberta will be diagnosed with breast cancer during her lifetime. The Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation CIBC Run for the Cure is hosting Think Pink Week to promote the Fort McMurray Run for the Cure on Sunday, October 4th, 2020, an annual event which raises awareness of breast cancer and funds for research and community health projects. Local organizers are asking businesses to think pink by selling a pink drink, food item, or product while dedicating a portion of the item's sales back to the CIBC Run for the Cure. In support of the occasion, the Saline Creek Bridge will be lit pink. Therefore, now I, Don Scott, Mayor of the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo, do hereby proclaim September 14th to 19th, 2020 to be Think Pink Week. And once again, many thanks to Councillor Murphy and for all the good work that our councillors do in this region. I'm certainly grateful for it. So next we are moving to our first presentation, and that is Jim Peacock, the Integrity Commissioner, regarding the Annual Report 2019 to 2020. And Mr. Peacock, I'd call upon you to present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You should have before you the annual report of the Integrity Commissioner for the period April 1, 2019 to March 31, 2020. This report is presented in accordance with Section 7 of the Integrity Commissioner bylaw. The report is relatively brief. You have a general report of my activities during the period in question, as well as 2 recommendations for amendments to the Integrity Commissioner bylaw. The first amendment is intended to make explicit what I believe is implicit in the bylaw, and that is that a member of council will have an opportunity to respond to a complaint during the formal investigation before a report is actually prepared. As presently drafted, the bylaw does not make that explicit. The second amendment really is intended to deal with what I felt was an inconsistency in the bylaw as to when council should be advised of a complaint. And as I understand it, both of those amendments are being considered by the legislative branch, and in due course, an amended bylaw will be presented to council. That is my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions members of council may have.
Okay, colleagues, this is an opportunity for you to ask questions, and we obviously have the materials before us. So I'm going to go through the list because we do have some who are participating and don't have the raise your hand function. So, Councillor Allen, any questions or comments?
No, not really much for comments. I must say that I agree with your recommendations, though, at this point. Question for Legislative and Legal Services. Do we require another report to come forward for this matter?
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
For the bylaw to be amended?
Yes, so through the chair, what we're doing, our team, so I'm working in collaboration right now with our legal services team. We are presently doing a review, a holistic review of the Integrity Commissioner bylaw, Council's Code of Conduct, of course, in anticipation of an election year next year, and we'll bring forward an amendment to you, likely in October.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Balson?
No comments or questions at this time.
Councillor Lalonde?
No questions.
Councillor Mark?
I'm good.
Councillor Murphy?
No questions, just thanks for the report, Mr. Peacock.
Councillor Pellet?
No questions. We just appreciate all of the work you do. Thank you.
Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Yes, I definitely agree with the recommendations that the council member will receive a copy of the complaint and be provided with a reasonable opportunity to respond to it in writing. I definitely agree with that recommendation. My other question is, the RMWB paying a retainer fee for the Integrity Commissioner, and is this a normal procedure on municipal councils throughout Alberta?
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, this is Legislative Services, Jade Brown. Absolutely, this is across Alberta. If there is an Integrity Commissioner in place, that is the best practice and the approach being taken. Yes, there is a retainer in place.
Okay, thank you.
Has Councillor Voyageur joined us yet, Jade?
No, Your Worship, I do not see that she has joined.
Okay, my only comments would be that I agree, like so many of my colleagues, and I just want to thank you for all the work you do for our region. We're certainly grateful for it. And it sounds like we'll be seeing further work done on this, and it'll be coming forward in October. So thank you again, Mr. Peacock.
You're welcome.
So, colleagues, that takes us. There's no motion required on this item, and it is received as information. So thank you again, Mr. Peacock. This takes us to, and you may disconnect now, this takes us to item 6.2, Leah Nelson-Gouet and Len Savoy, Jason Heisler,
Jim Peacock
is now exiting.
Of the Suncor Energy regarding the base mine expansion, something I think we're all looking forward to hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Scott and Council. It's Tracy Woolsey with Suncor Energy here. We appreciate that you've allowed us to provide an update on the Suncor Base Mine Extension project today. Just want to clarify that it's actually an extension versus an expansion, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So again, my name is Tracy Woolsey. I'm the Director of Indigenous and Community Relations with Suncor. Good day, everyone. With me for this virtual presentation, as noted, are my Suncor colleagues, Leah Nelson-Gay, Jason Heisler, Tim Drager, and Len Savoy. Many of you are familiar with this project under its former name, the Voyageur South Mine. We have renamed it the Base Mine Extension. This open pit mine will provide replacement bitumen for our mines currently operating at Suncor's base plant. Those are the Millennium and North Steepbank mines. As such, it's not an expansion or a growth project, but rather it just provides us our next supply of mine bitumen to feed our current base plant infrastructure. We started working on the Voyageur South Mine, or what we call the Base Mine Expansion, back in 2005 to 2009. We did some additional work in 2012 to 2015. And in 2019, we've restarted the application process as our current mines move closer to their depletion dates in the mid-2030s. So with that basic introduction, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Leah, and she can provide you some additional detail. Thank you again for your time today. Leah, take it away.
Thanks, Tracy. Good afternoon, Mayor Scott, council members, and everyone who's taking time to listen in. My name is Leah Nelson-Gay, and I'd like to give you just a few more details about the Base Mine Extension project. And thanks for putting the slides up, so I'm hoping I can talk you through as we go along. Suncor is a fully integrated energy company, as many of you will know, based in the RMWB with 4 operating sites. We have 2 mines, Base Plant and Fort Hills, and 2 in situ operations with numerous leases for potential development. Next slide, please. We have global operations outside of RMWB across Canada, into the U.S. and Europe. Slide 4, please. I think there might be a bit of a lag. It's okay, I'll just keep on going through the information and we can catch up in terms of the presentation. So the mine itself is a typical mine with truck and shovel operations. It's going to leverage 50 years of Suncor's experience, including both expertise and existing infrastructure. So there's some new construction required, including a new primary extraction facility, and it will deploy hot water extraction technology, a new external tailings area, new roads, and extension of pipelines and utilities. The mine would operate for 25 years into the 2050s and will produce 225,000 barrels per day. Slide 5. As Tracy described, this project represents a continuation of Suncor operations at Base Plant. We're estimating a depletion of bitumen resources in the early 2030s, and this project would sustain existing operations into the 2050s. The development plan projects construction in the 2026 time period, with first oil to be produced by approximately 2031. This project will maintain jobs and investment in Fort McMurray in the years to come. Slide 6. Here we have a map. It's an overview of the proposed project site with some of the internal attributes. On the north side, Easter Road will be relocated, and you can see its location relative to Fort McMurray, in particular Parsons Creek. It's our intention to consult closely with the residents due to the proximity of the project to the community. Slide 7. We are at the earliest stages in the regulatory process, both provincial and federal. This will be the first oil sands mining project evaluated under the new Impact Assessment Agency of Canada. We're engaging with a broad range of stakeholders. Central to that, of course, Fort McMurray and the RMWB, as many as 38 Indigenous communities and organizations, local industry, interest groups, and NGOs. Our approach will be to focus on continued updates such as this, and due to COVID, many virtual communications. We're planning open houses in accordance with safety protocols in place for the region. And we've already heard some feedback from our MWB residents that date back from 2014 to the most recent comment period that was held in April, May of this year. And comments included questions about noise, dust, odors, light, and other visual effects. Some mentioned impacts to recreational uses, including snowmobiling, fishing, and hiking. We will also provide notice on the federal public comment period in the coming weeks, all of which we will listen to very closely. Slide 8. Here's a visual overview of our stage in development. We're here at the earliest stage, Q3 2020. The actual project application isn't planned until late next year, 2021. An engagement will occur throughout the development, construction, and operational phases. Once approved, then sanctioned by Suncor Board of Directors, construction would start in late 2026 with commissioning in late 2031. Slide 9, next steps. We will continue our engagement with you and the broader community as we move towards the project application. We're very interested in continued feedback and establishing engagement. We will maintain current information on our website, and inquiries on the project can be directed at any time by phone or email, and they're included. You can find the link on the Suncor website and as well on this presentation. And our last slide, thanks so much for your time, and we're open to any questions or comments you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. So we're going to go through the list again, and anybody who has any questions or comments. Councillor Allen?
No, actually, no questions, but just a comment. I guess, first of all, thank you both to Tracy and Leah. It's good to hear your voice again, Tracy. It's been a while since we've had you around the horseshoe. But this is something that's going to be really exciting for the community, and I look forward to the process moving forward. It is a long-awaited announcement, and I hope that the process goes very smoothly for you. If not, it may even be accelerated at some point. But I know how time-consuming these applications are. So, once again, thank you very much for bringing this forward, and I look forward to positive results.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Really appreciate the comments.
Councillor Balsam?
Thank you so much, Tracy and the team. Certainly very appreciative of the update. No questions. I just wanted to make a comment. I think your very robust engagement with our Indigenous nations in our region, as well as the public, is something that is incredibly valuable, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. And truly, I just got off a Federation of Canadian Municipalities call, and the support for the sector from that organization and from our Prairies and Territories Caucus friends is there. So it was nice to be able to tell them that this was coming forward to council this evening, and that the oil sands is definitely still moving forward, and we're alive and well in our region. So thank you for that, and good luck with this.
Thank you, Councillor Balsam. It's great to hear that feedback from that organization.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Councillor Lalonde.
Thank you. Yeah, Tracy, it's nice to hear your voice again, too. I just want to clarify. You're saying that it's extending the life of base mine in total. So by 2031, does that mean that the extension will be the only spot that you will be getting bitumen, or will you be still using the old mine sites as well?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lalonde. So we expect the current two mines at Base Mine to start to deplete in mid-2030s, so say 2033, 2035. It depends on our mining trajectory. When those deplete, we need to have another source of bitumen ready to go, and that's what this Base Mine extension is all about. It'll be that source of bitumen when those two mines deplete. We'll still have our in situ operations going, and Fort Hills, of course, is separate. This is just about the replacement for Base Mine. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, just wanted to make sure it did, and I just wanted to make sure that the listening audience understood that as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good point. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Tracy. Always nice to hear from you, and a very good update on what's going on. I hear that oil had a tough weekend. I think Brent crude went down, I don't know, $2 or $3, but it always bounces back as far as I can see. I was expecting Mr. Alt here tonight. Is he still around?
Absolutely. We'd never want to get rid of Mr. Alt. He just wasn't available.
Okay, no problem. Anyway, thank you again for the update, and all the best in getting through this tough time we're in right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marr.
Councillor Marcus.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Tracy. I guess one question that I would have, we all know how great the regulatory process is. Is there any way that we can actually help you lobby to get that process going a bit more smoothly?
That's a great question, Councillor Murphy. We always appreciate any support we can get. The regulatory process is quite significant, which is actually why we have to start this far ahead of time so that we can get approval and get it constructed in time for the 2030 timeframe. How about we take that one back, and if there's anything specific, we'll certainly circle back and look for your support. Appreciate that offer.
Okay, thanks, and thanks for the presentation. It's always good to hear that we're getting extensions instead of anything being cut, so that's great news.
Well said. Councillor Peddle?
Hi, it's certainly good to hear from you again, and again, along with my colleagues, same sentiments. Anytime we can do growth and stuff in the industry, we certainly celebrate that, and congratulations, and I think it's a great thing for our region again. Have a great day.
Thank you, Councillor Peddle.
Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Scott, and thank you, Tracy, and the other members for the presentation. I'm just wondering if there's any news on Meadow Creek East and West.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. So currently, Meadow Creek East and West are sitting in our list of projects that we certainly are interested in, but with today's economics, we're not moving forward on sanction. We do have them on a list to review, and we review them regularly. So in a couple of years, we will be reviewing Meadow Creek to make a decision on sanction. We can certainly keep you apprised of that, Councillor Stroud.
I appreciate that. We're all looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, colleagues. My only comment would be this is a council that's fought very hard to make sure that we're supporting industry as much as we can, especially overcoming some of the regulatory hurdles that have been in place and making sure that our local industry and therefore our workers are doing really well. And we certainly support you during this time, and in any initiative that you might be able to come back to us with, as Councillor Murphy suggested, we would love to write a letter of support if that would be of assistance, I'm sure. So thank you very much for the presentation. We're certainly grateful for it.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Really appreciate the feedback and the time today.
All right, colleagues, there's no motion required for this item. That was received as information. And you can disconnect now, Tracy and your team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, colleagues, so our
Suncor
is now exiting. Multiple people are now exiting.
Okay, colleagues, our next item is item 6.3.
Is now exiting.
That's the Conklin Resource Development Advisory Committee regarding affordable housing. So I'd call upon the CRDAC to present, and they are represented by multiple people who will introduce themselves. Please go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Scott and members of the Council. My name is Verna Quintel-Jambier, a resident of Conklin, Alberta. I am part of the administration team with Conklin Resource Development Advisory Committee, CRDAC. I'd like to introduce the CRDAC Board of Directors online today. There's Yvonne McCollum, Margaret Quintel, Stacey Atkinson, and Valerie Quintel. I'd like to now pass it over to Valerie Quintel for her presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Conklin Resource Development Advisory Committee respectfully requests that the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo transfer the following parcels of land for the development of community and affordable housing through a partnership between the CRDAC and Cenovus Energy at a nominal fee. The lots include 103 Pine Lane, 175 Pine Lane, 178 Pine Lane, 130 Father Mercady Trail in the hamlet of Conklin. The CRDAC exists to represent the needs and vested interests of the Conklin community, local industry, and government while achieving growth through the mutually beneficial and constructive relationships. As Mayor and Council may already be aware, Cenovus is investing $50 million over 5 years to kickstart and help alleviate the ongoing housing crisis in 6 Indigenous communities, including Conklin. Cenovus has further committed to developing training programs so that residents can partake in construction and maintenance of the homes. The CRDAC, alongside the residents of Conklin, are thankful to have been selected as one of the communities and are highly enthused to get this off the ground and get our affected population into homes that are safe and warm. With that said, we need your help in acquiring lands to make this a true success. As Alex Corbet, Cenovus President and CEO, had said during the announcement, we can't solve the Indigenous housing crisis by ourselves. Even with the allotted investment, we require participation and collaboration from our local government, and we simply cannot make this work without the adequate land. Over the years, the CRDAC discussions with the RMWB have led to the understanding that there is a mutual interest in providing land in the hamlet of Conklin to the CRDAC for the purpose of community and affordable housing. It was also understood that the RMWB Council sincerely recognizes this as a serious and growing issue that requires an immediate address. With the opportunity handed to us at our doorstep, we are hopeful that the RMWB recognizes the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the following and follow through our request of transferring the subject lands. At the end of the day, the CRDAC believes that industry, government, and community all want to genuinely see this through as a huge success, but the only way this will truly be a success is if we have all our key stakeholders at the table collaborating and participating. And the significant key player will be the RMWB, because we truly cannot accomplish what we are set out to do without your support. In 2017, the CRDAC commissioned a study into the issue of housing and homelessness in Conklin. This resulted in the report How Much Longer? A preliminary assessment of housing and homelessness in Conklin, Alberta. The qualitative study demonstrates the homelessness crisis that presently exists in the community of Conklin, and through personal stories shows the crisis along history and current impact on people's lives. This report has been followed by a quantitative assessment completed by the Alberta Rural Development Network, ARDN, that uses a community survey along with other available statistical material to determine the extent of the homelessness crisis and outline potential solutions. The ARDN study further demonstrates the extent of the homelessness crisis, estimating that 92 individuals, between 30 to 50% of the community, are in unstable housing situations, which 41% of the vulnerable residents being between the ages of 1 and 20. In the ARDN's Conklin Homelessness Estimation Report, 33 out of 54 respondents reported earning less than $20,000 per year, and only one respondent stated that they earn more than $65,500 per year. The 2018 income threshold for Conklin provided the government of Alberta. It is important to note that 100% of those survey respondents reported being Indigenous. The ARDN survey also collected additional information regarding client types in the 54 respondents listed. Physical disability as a primary reason for their housing instability. Other reports show that there is a real need for seniors housing in Conklin. Specifically, the RMWB's Advisory Committee on Aging, a report titled Age-Friendly Needs Assessment, shows that rural communities in the RMWB are currently underserviced, and seniors in communities like Conklin need assistance to find housing solutions. As outlined above, the community of Conklin is presently experiencing the homelessness crisis. We have been provided with an opportunity to significantly overturn the situation through the program offered by Cenovus. At the same time, the RMWB owns several lots in the community that we need to make this dream become a reality. If this request is granted, the CRDAC is committed to work with RMWB administration to ensure proper zoning and adherence to its regulations and bylaws. The CRDAC commends the RMWB for working to be part of the solution and looks forward to our partnership to address the homelessness crisis in Conklin. We'd also like to take this time to thank the Lands Department for all the work that they have done for Conklin thus far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. And we're going to go through the list. And just to alert everybody, we do have the next item, which is item 6.3, which is Business Arising, the Conklin Resource Development Advisory Committee request. So at this point, we're just simply going through the list to see if there's any questions of council or comments. Councillor Allen.
No questions, Your Worship.
Councillor Molson.
No questions.
Councillor Lalonde.
I have a couple. So in 2016, council approved the sale of the land. Did the CDRAC actually buy it?
No, they didn't purchase the land at that time.
Due to the cost of the land? Because, I mean, the paperwork that's in our agenda says that it was quite expensive.
Well, in 2006, there were some things that came into play because of the wildfire. There were actually some items that were postponed, some projects that were postponed by RMWB, and CRDC ended up postponing some of their projects. So now we're coming to you to see if there's any way we could get these lots at a nominal sum.
And my other question is, are these like acreages, like 1 acre, 2 acre pieces of land?
I believe most lots out in Conklin are 2 acres.
And you guys are planning on putting affordable?
Yes, we are planning on, we're hoping to target the homelessness issue in Conklin. And what the community would do is the land would be under the entity of CRDAC 2014 Limited, a housing association.
And you guys would hold the mortgage and people would, very similar to, you know, any other affordable housing program.
I believe so. It would be the Community Housing Association.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Councillor Mark.
No questions. Looks like everything's in order.
Councillor Murphy.
No questions from me.
Councillor Peddle.
No questions for me, Mayor Scott.
Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I just want to thank Val and Verna for making the presentation and for the residents being there to support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And now we have the business arising in the very next item, so there may be a few questions arising there too. And I just wanted to thank CRDAC for all the work they do, and I'm certainly grateful for it, and I know that the community is as well. So with that, there's no motion or debate required, but administration, as I said, has a business arising on this matter for our consideration. So we are now moving to item 6.3, and I call upon Amanda Heides and Michael Uricanda to present the report.
Good evening, Your Worship and esteemed members of Council. My name is Amanda Heides, Senior Manager of Planning and Development, and with me this evening is Michael Urcandia, Manager of Land Administration. Michael will be presenting bylaw number 20/020, road closure of Fairway Drive in Fort McMurray. Michael?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Michael.
It's not the right item.
Hi, to administration, I realize there's some challenges because we're all separate, but I just want to make sure everybody's on the same issue, which is the Conklin Resource Development Advisory Committee request. So item 6.3.
Sorry, our apologies. Yes, that's correct. Michael's going to be presenting that right now.
Thank you, Amanda. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Michael Urcandiat, Manager of Land Administration. I am presenting a report on the sale of 4 residential lots in Conklin, previously approved by Council to the CRDAC. Please note a correction of dates as the report states August 23rd, 2016 is the date Council previously approved these sales at fair market value. That date is incorrect. The correct date was October 4th, 2016. The CRDAC is requesting Council reapprove the sale of these lots for a nominal fee rather than fair market value. Administration makes no recommendation, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. So now it's an opportunity for Council to ask questions or make comments. So I'll go through the list one more time. Councillor Allen.
No, I guess a question for Michael or Amanda, but I'm a little confused. You have a book value and an appraised value, and the net loss is the addition of both. Would the net loss not be taking the appraised value and subtracting the book value, or even just the appraised value itself?
Through the chair, through the chair of the question, that's correct. Councillor Allen, you are correct on that. It should be a subtraction.
Okay, so I'll just do the math. It shouldn't be $775,000. It's more likely in the $675,000. I'll do the math on my end here.
Okay, next we have Councillor Lalonde. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Councillor Balsam's next.
No questions, Mayor Scott.
Councillor Lalonde?
Actually, I don't have any questions because Mike beat me to it.
All right. Councillor Marr?
No questions.
Councillor Mercer?
No questions for me.
Councillor Peddle? Councillor Peddle, you might still be on mute. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I have no questions.
Okay. Councillor Stroud?
Mayor Scott, I'd like to make the motion after questions of Council to Administration.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I believe these lots were acquired through amalgamation. That's how this RMWB acquired those lots. Just so we're a bit on the same page here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And back to administration. Can you just give a Coles Note summary of why this transaction, from your perspective, from administration's perspective, would not have proceeded?
Through the chair to the question, land transactions can take quite a long time. I dealt personally with the CRDAC, and moving through finances and some organizational changes, it just didn't happen quite as expectedly, as fast as we thought it would.
Okay, and we did a nominal fee transaction, I believe at either the last council meeting or the one before that. And is this, in your view, or in administration's view, comparable to that transaction?
Through the chair of the question, yes, it is comparable to that transaction.
Okay, and thank you very much for that. So, colleagues, I understand Councillor Stroud would like to bring a motion. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I make a motion to approve the sale of the 4 lots for a nominal fee. The reasons being include the province has provided funding for housing for the homeless in Fort McMurray. This has reduced homelessness in Fort McMurray, However, some of our rural communities also face serious challenges of lack of housing for the homeless. Mayor Scott has sent letters to Prime Minister Trudeau and Premier Kenney inviting them to our region to see local housing conditions firsthand. Ministers under both Prime Minister Trudeau and Premier Kenney, whose portfolios include housing and vulnerable populations, also received letters, as well as our local MP and MLAs. With the funding being provided by Cenovus to build some homes in the hamlet of Conklin, it will definitely help the homeless and overcrowding in the community. Cenovus, who has an oil plant near Conklin, has stepped up to the plate and will be investing $50 million in housing for some communities in Alberta. These communities include John B. and Conklin. A big thank you to Cenovus for coming forward with this initiative. Our strategic plan includes collaborate with Indigenous and rural communities on areas of concern in rural and Indigenous communities. Specific successes will be achieved based on specific issues. I believe this will be a success similar to John V., who received their land at a nominal fee for their housing venture with Cenovus. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want, if you could just take a moment and just restate your motion. I just want to make sure the entire motion was captured.
I make a motion to approve the sale of the 4 lots for a nominal fee.
Okay, I'm just going to make a friendly amendment suggestion, which is the following at the end, and affirm the previous disposition. Is that acceptable?
What do you mean by that?
Sure, and approve, and that the previous sale would still be approved.
So,
yep,
does that include the nominal?
Yes. If you take a look at your, does that make sense to you? We're still, if your motion's approved, we're going to go to a seconder in a moment, but so you suggested that it be at a nominal fee, but I believe the addition that we need is still to affirm the previous disposition.
Okay, as long as they get the land at a nominal fee, Mayor Scott, I'm happy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And we need a seconder, colleagues. I'm going to go to Councillor Allen. Councillor Allen, would you second this?
Yes, sure. Ronald Quintel motion.
Is now joining.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we got that. Councillor Allen, did you second this?
Yes, I'm sorry. I have a bad signal here, but yes, I did second that.
Okay, colleagues, so we're going to go through the list again for debate and comments or questions. Councillor Allen, any comments or questions or debate points?
No, just a comment. I always, my eyebrows always rise when we have something that's provincial responsibility, and municipally we have to take responsibility financially for a transaction like this, when the province really should just step up and purchase the land back. But it, we've set a precedent now with Janvier, so I've always supported any of the affordable housing initiatives, affordable and homeless issues. I would hope that CRDC will consider liaising as well with Wood Buffalo Housing, who has a great deal of experience with homelessness and with affordable housing, and that your operational funding comes from the province. So I would suggest as well, just for the long term, that funding is secured by the province, or there's at least some commitments from the province prior to beginning the construction of the properties themselves, because they can be quite expensive to maintain over the years. But other than that, I'm able to support this.
Okay, Councillor Balson?
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Lalonde, any points or debate points?
Yeah. So Councillor Stroud's motion was to sell the lots at a nominal fee, and you amended it to affirm the previous
disposition or whatever. Reading over the notes, it looks like if we had declined to sell at a nominal fee, then we would keep the original cost, which would be the affirming of the deposition or whatever. So are we now selling them for a nominal fee but making sure that they're still going to purchase them for the 2016 numbers? It's a little confusing, so I would like that probably a lot more clarified, just to be sure that I'm not voting on something that's not making too much sense.
Sure. Why don't we go to Jade or to legal counsel? So if everyone looks at their process notes and sees option 2, various options were presented, you'll see that there's option 2 for the motions, which is what Councillor Stroud chose. There was just a second aspect of the second motion, which wasn't read out, so that's why I suggested it be added in. But maybe legal counsel can confirm that wording is appropriate, or...
Yes, Your Worship, members of council, the alternatives were placed there to say either council approve it or you decline, and you would, in the face of declining the sale, you would affirm the previous sale amount. In other words, go back to the original deal. That's really what it was. It was to create two clear options.
Sure. Can you, so the original motion that was brought, and then there was a friendly amendment by me, which was I move that council decline the sale of the maybe that's my error. I just want to make sure that I'm the one. I think Councillor Lalonde is actually identified. So do we require the wording of affirming the previous disposition? Because I guess if we're affirming the previous disposition, then that's causing the issue which Councillor Lalonde is identifying, because the previous disposition wasn't for a nominal fee. So option 1 was simply to state that I move that council approve the sale of lots for a nominal fee, and leave it at that. And that would have been sufficient.
Yeah, Your Worship, that's probably my error in making that maybe less clear. I thought it would be important to, in option 2, to make it clear that you were going back to the previous disposition, but if you decline to sell for nominal fee, you would fall back to the previous approved resolution. So,
Jade, I think I need to go to you next, just for a second, because it's the motion is simply to bring the lots for sale for a nominal fee, which is now pretty evident that it's option 1, and I don't think my friendly amendment was necessary, as pointed out by Councillor Lalonde. So can I simply withdraw that friendly amendment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, absolutely, and that would be my recommendation in this case, is to simply withdraw your friendly amendment.
So good catch, Councillor Lalonde. I'm withdrawing the friendly amendment. So now the motion is simply what Councillor Stroud read out, which is I move that council approve the sale of 4 lots for a nominal fee, period. Good catch. Back to Councillor Lalonde.
Well, now it makes sense again. Thanks.
All right. Next, we have Councillor Marr.
No, thank you, Councillor Lalonde, for picking that up. Good job.
Councillor Murphy.
No questions from me.
Councillor Peddle.
No questions for me, Mayor Scott. Thank you.
Councillor Stroud, did you want to add anything further?
No, I stand behind my motion. Thank you.
Yeah. So I would support the motion for all the reasons stated by Councillor Stroud. And there has been a serious lack of housing in this region that we've been advocating for to all levels of government since we were all elected, and we need to continue that and do everything we can to make sure that we are doing those things that are within our abilities to make sure that this housing situation is addressed. So for that reason, I would support it. So I'll just ask the general question. If I hear anyone in opposition, then we'll go through the list. Is there anyone in opposition to this motion? Please say so now. So, colleagues, that was carried unanimously, so thank you for all of that work. Oh, I just want to make sure, Shori, that there were no delegates. Jade, is there any delegates for this item?
No, Your Worship, there are no delegates, either written or verbal.
Okay, so that concludes that matter. That is carried unanimously. Thank you for that. And thank you to the members of the CRDAC for all your good work on that. And you can disconnect now. Okay, colleagues, so our next
is now exiting.
Okay, colleagues, our next item is item 6.4, which is Ronald Quintel, the Fort McMurray Métis Nation, asking that mandatory mask for the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. Just before we get to as soon as the delegate has presented, I think we're going to go to Jay, just so everyone understands the process for what the request would result in if successful. So I call upon President Ron Quintel to please go ahead and present.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mayor and Council. What I bring today is definitely something that is of grave consequences and grave circumstance. I think that when we look at where we are as a region and where we are as a nation, we have been challenged to our core, and our economy has suffered greatly because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The reason that I'm bringing forward the motion today is to follow suit with other municipalities in Alberta, cities that is, but as well as schools in our region. But the fundamental aspect of it is not just the safety of our residents and the safety of our children, but the economy and how we are able to keep our economy going. Earlier this year with the shutdown, we have our economy has suffered across the province, and especially in Wood Buffalo. Many businesses are shutting down and won't be reopening. The ones that are open, many of them are mask mandatory. And I think for us to keep the doors open on those businesses, we need to look at making our public spaces mask mandatory. Those who have underlying health conditions and are unable to wear a mask, then that's understandable. As in my own opinion, it's something that we don't want to threaten anybody's life. But in this circumstance, when we go forward with this motion and how it's supposed to be debated, we need to look at all these different factors. This is not a rural issue. Fort McKay has locked down. Chief Grandjam and myself and our councils have made the community of Fort McKay safety our highest priority. And thus we've locked our doors and we've taken protocols by way of trying to mitigate this infection from entering our community. And as hard as we've tried, we've still had it come in. So it is inevitable that the COVID outbreak will continue, not just in Fort McKay from time to time, but within the region. So we need to look at this thing wholeheartedly for what it is, and that is the safety of our entire region. If we look at many stores and many businesses, they are mask mandatory. Our kids going to school are mask mandatory. We need to try to close all loops that we possibly can in making all public spaces mask mandatory at this time. I'm not saying this needs to be a full-time thing, but until we have some type of way to mitigate this via vaccine or any other way, it's very difficult for us right now. So what I'm putting forward is this. Let's keep our businesses open. Let's keep them operating and making this mask mandatory. Let's meet our kids halfway. If our kids' safety is so critical, and when they go to school and they're around other children, then why shouldn't we as parents, why shouldn't we as the general public put that as our primary concern? It's something that, and I'll be very frank, my own spouse and my children don't like the fact that I'm considering this, but they understand that it's in the best interest of their health. Because, people will call me a sheep. People will call me a number of different things, and I'm okay with that. If I can save just one life by this motion, then I've succeeded. Because, we look at this and people are posting mass mortality rates aren't there. We've only had X amount of deaths. One death is too many from this thing. And I'm not going to compare this to the flu. I'm not going to compare this to anything else, because the fact is everything else, all other health crises that the world is currently facing have not shut down our economy, have not crippled the way that our country operates, have not crippled the way the world operates. COVID has. So we have to adapt to COVID. And the only way that we can do that is by following suit with other cities in Alberta, as well as following suit with our oil sand sites and following suit with our schools and our hospitals. I think that it's high time that we here at Fort McMurray and Wood Buffalo take a step in the right direction. We have survived a wildfire. We have survived flooding. We have survived recessions. I'm sure we can survive wearing a mask while we grocery shop, while we clothes shop, while we dine. I know that we can, because we are Fort McMurray strong. We are Wood Buffalo strong. And I think the only way that we can do this is collectively together. So with that, Council, I implore to please support this motion for the safety of all residents, and so that we can try to slow this thing until we can find some other path forward. So with that, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, President Quintel. And I just wanted to take a moment before you take questions, President Quintel, and ask Jade Brown, who's our legislative services person, to describe what the net effect of an approval would be tonight, and just so that everybody who's on the line or watching would understand that. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair to all of council and residents listening along. In essence, there is no approval of anything coming before council today. We've just heard a presentation from a member of the public on mandating masks in the region. What council may choose to do following discussion and questions for the presenter is to direct administration to bring forward a bylaw for mandatory mask use throughout the region that council can consider. At that time, when the bylaw is brought forward, that's where we'll get into delegations, public participation, and we can go through the standard process for considering a matter that affects everyone in our region. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, everyone, and thanks for that. So if colleagues, if anyone is considering bringing a motion, I would also ask that you consider a date to attach to that motion. But we're going to go through questions for Mr. Quintel first. We'll go through the list. Councillor Allen.
No, just thank you for your presentation, Ron, and for taking the time to bring forward your concerns. I think Jade explained the process best there, so I'll look forward to see what the rest of my colleagues are saying today for questions and where this goes. But certainly COVID is a concern for all of us, and so I appreciate you speaking on behalf not just of your community, but speaking with the concerns for the entire region. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Balson?
Thank you so much, Ron. I always appreciate your advocacy on behalf of not only your community, but the entire region. And I too share some concerns. I've been hearing from a lot of business owners, a lot of residents. Certainly we want to protect our children and our seniors, and the numbers coming out today especially are particularly alarming, not just for our region with the 66 active cases we now see, but across the province with 619 new cases over the last 4 days. So we certainly have, I think, the highest growing rates in the province, or here in Alberta from across the country right now, if you look at per capita numbers. So I think that it's time that we take perhaps a closer look at this and what other municipalities are doing. So I'll see what my colleagues do this evening, but I certainly appreciate you bringing it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bossman.
Councillor Lamont?
Thanks, Ron, for your presentation. It was well presented. You might have changed my mind, but I'm not saying that you have. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Ron, again for your well thought out presentation. You should read storybooks because you put a lot of expression into your presentations, and I appreciate that. Obviously, this one here has certainly got the public's attention, and Ron, you know my day job is the Deputy Superintendent of Public Schools, and we certainly have mandated masks under certain conditions and where students are, and et cetera, and certainly we'll have no trouble supporting your proposal. However, as has been stated, this has to go through the proper channels. I know that we've had lots of public input from this, at least through our email, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes and how it goes. I think we have to be careful. It's a very divisive suggestion, and I certainly know that from some of the parents that have talked to me through the school. So thank you again for bringing it forward, and we're in a real battle here to get back to normalcy. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Ron. I always appreciate when you take the time and show the leadership to take this topic forward in the region. As others have said, it's going to be a hot button topic for the next little bit, and I'm hoping that the community can take your lead and really think about how it's affecting our businesses, our region, industry, and staff and children as they're going back to school. So I look forward to some further debate on this, but thanks for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Councillor Puddle?
Ron, I certainly agree with you 100%. I think this should have been a provincial government mandate, and you look at Calgary and Edmonton, no matter about people's personal feelings, when it comes to the general public and people's safety, the sign's there and saying it works, and that's certainly what I'm going to go by. So I will certainly do whatever I can to help you bring this forward, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, next we have Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, and thank you, President Quintel, for the presentation. I believe there will be a robust debate on this particular item. Thank you again for expressing your views and concerns on it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Stroud, for that. What's missing from the debate at this point is really public participation, and that would happen if Council directs a bylaw to return to before Council for debate. One thing, President Quintel, I wondered if you could weigh in on the Chief Medical Officer for Alberta has not mandated masks for Alberta. And back in the Spanish flu, when that happened in 1918 or thereabouts, the province did in fact mandate masks. I don't think it lasted very long, but there was a provincial mandate. I just wondered if you could comment on that. So the province, we're going one step further than the province has indicated is what they consider to be the step that should be taken at this point. But do you have any views on that or any comments?
I do. Being Indigenous, epidemics and the Spanish flu killed, hundreds of thousands of Indigenous people. And a lot of these people lived on reserve and didn't have the benefit of being able to understand how deadly that epidemic was, and the fact that they weren't given any instructions to protect themselves via masks. In this day and age, we are smarter. While Dr. Henshaw may not be mandating mandatory masks, I believe that there is a small piece of politics involved with that office. And while Dr. Hinshaw has done an outstanding job to guide us through this current epidemic, I believe that, from my heart, that it is in the best interest of our society at this point to try to flatten that curve, and that is by masking up. If they can mandate our children to have to wear them while they go to school, and let's be very, very open here. It's not a matter of if COVID gets into the schooling systems; it's a matter of when. And I know for a fact that the second that it hits the schools that my children are attending in Fort McMurray, that I'll be pulling my kids out of school and looking for an alternative education. The fact is, I'm meeting them halfway. I'm wearing my masks in public because I believe that it's in the best interest of my children and of my elders of my community. I don't want to have to bring something like this back to my community and my community suffer for it. We're already, in this community on lockdown, so to speak, in terms of how we as a community function. It's been now without its trials and tribulations. We've had many community members oppose masks, but at the end of the day, it's what's in the best interest of our community. And in this circumstance, I believe that this is in the best interest of the region. No disrespect to Dr. Hinshaw, no disrespect to the provincial government. I believe that this is a provincial matter that should have been pushed forward a long time ago. But in this circumstance, this is Wood Buffalo, and our region has endured and endured and endured. And we've had our businesses shut down. We've had some of the greatest businesses in our region that are gone. And today, when you drive down Franklin, it's a ghost town. And that's partly because of the flood. It's partly because of COVID. But it's a combination of a number of different things. So when I look at this, I want to be able to salvage and save what we have left and be able to keep what businesses we have going in Fort McMurray open. By making them mask mandatory, we're only going to improve the safety. And I'm not the one that's going to sit here and tout what I read, the statistics I read on social media, and the hundreds of thousands of memes going each way. This is a very divisive issue. It definitely is. But if our kids need to wear them, if our seniors need to wear them, then why can't the rest of us? Because I know for a fact that I could not lose one or the other because of COVID. And that's why I want to do my part to be able to protect this region, to be able to protect our kids, to be able to protect the elders. Scientific data is what it is. But at the end of the day here, COVID is not going anywhere. And look at the numbers. We're surging. School has just started today. We had some delays last week. We've got a few days of school here and there, but it's starting to surge. And all I can say from my heart of hearts is that this is in the best interest of all of our residents. And I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form to take away from anybody's freedoms. But when I look at this is about protecting my children. It's about protecting my elders. And it's about protecting my family. And I hope that every other resident in Wood Buffalo looks at it in that mindset. Because at the end of the day, that's why I do the work that I do. It's not just for me. It's for our future generations, and it's to honor our past generations. And with that said, I honor their lives, and I'm going to try to protect their lives.
Well, thanks for that response. There's many challenges with a mask bylaw, but one is enforcement. Do you have any views on that? I think we're seeing challenges with enforcement in other jurisdictions, and we're certainly hearing about that. There's exemption issues. There's certainly enforcement problems. Do you have any views or anything you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, I think that we definitely come up against those here in the community in terms of enforcement, but we're pretty positive about it. And I mean, if we see somebody without a mask, we pull over and we hand them a new mask. Here you go, protect yourself. And if they choose not to wear it, I mean, that's a choice that they make. But if when I look at it, when somebody going into a business, well, if it's publicly mandated by the government, by the local municipality, then that business is mandated to make sure that people are wearing it in their establishment. So, I mean, out and about, walking down the street is one thing that's very difficult to enforce, but inside of public establishments. I think that making it mask mandatory will make it much easier to enforce, because the business owners will be looking after their own best interests as well. So that is one way to enforce it. There is no one way to do this, guys. And I will say that we at Joint Council, First Nations and Métis, we find ways that we can try to enforce. But what we also do is we make sure that we hand out masks. We have masks on the ready. Like if we look at bringing in this bylaw for implementation, if people don't have masks, let's make them available. Let's make them available at doorways of businesses. Let's make them available, at doorways in parks. I know that there's going to be a littering aspect of this with masks, but it's trials and error. That's all you can do is trial and error. So at this point, we have to be prepared to be creative. I don't think it's fair to be giving out tickets and finding people for not, unless they're causing a major issue wherein they have a cold and they're in a public area coughing and sneezing and whatnot. I think that's definitely something that needs to be taken seriously. But it's definitely going to take some conversation, and I welcome public consultation. I welcome the ability to listen to the public on this, because I think that it's important. And while somebody might disagree with me, that's fine. I mean, so is the world. I mean, not everybody's going to agree with what I say. So long as we can get the majority on side, I think we're doing okay. And that's so is democracy. And in this day and age, I think that if our kids are mandated to wear them, and we're asking our seniors to wear them, then why shouldn't the rest of us?
Did industry reach out to you, or do you have any sense of industry's position? The CAO and I are going to give a bit of a description of that, but did industry reach out to you?
Yeah, so we talk to, whenever there's an outbreak, we have a conversation with the various oil companies, because, like I said, we have community members who work on these sites as well. Because we're in close proximity, as a courtesy, they make sure they make it clear that of what's going on. But in talking with the leaders of these companies, I mean, they are taking no chances when it comes to a COVID outbreak. I mean, the amount, us wearing a mask is minimal compared to what they're going through on site. And, there are a lot of hurdles that they have to get through just to get to work. So I think, we look to them, because when it comes to safety, there is no better place in the world than Wood Buffalo, especially in the oil industry. Safety is everything. And when we look at that, I mean, let's use that as an example of one of our main industries here in the region, to be able to reflect that on our most populated business areas and most populated, city. I think that's very, very important. But yeah, like I said, the rules and restrictions on site are tenfold to what we're proposing here today.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm just going to shift to administration for a moment, and maybe you could start with the latest numbers. Anybody from administration who wants to speak to that, in case anyone who's listening or isn't aware of it. And then our CAO and I had a conversation with industry today, and they gave us consent to describe their views. So I think the CAO could probably describe that. It's probably best for everybody to hear that so that everyone's aware. But CAO or whoever from administration would like to weigh in on the numbers and then discussion.
Good afternoon, Mayor Scott. It's Matthew Huff, Deputy CAO. I can speak to both items that you've asked about. As of this moment, active cases in our region total 68, and we have been informed of the first death in our region. With regards to our discussion with industry representatives earlier today, both Suncor and Syncrude were clear in their desire to see the RMWB adopt a mask wearing bylaw, and they spoke about their actions to flatten the curve on their various sites. administration is available to answer any further questions, including our legal counsel.
And whoever from administration would like to speak to it, we have mandated, we've taken a step with respect to transit buses that are used for school busing. Could you speak to how that came about, whoever would like to?
Mayor Scott, Matthew Huff again. I can speak to our requirement as the primary school bus provider. We had to adhere to a provincial guideline, and so students are required to wear masks on our buses. As far as the general public, we are encouraging and educating the benefits of wearing masks. In fact, today we're going further. Today we're going further with that with the launch. Today we're going further with the launch of an additional educational campaign.
And whoever would like to speak to it from administration, how long would it take to have a bylaw potentially ready if council decides to move in that direction?
Mayor Scott, if I could, I'd like to call upon Chris Davis from Legal Services.
Thanks, DCAO Huff and Mayor and Council. We anticipated in legal, in consultation with Ledge Services, that Council may be interested in a form of bylaws. We have prepared a draft. We're working on it this week, and I think we could be in a position to have something ready before the end of the week. So that's our answer.
Okay, thank you very much. So colleagues, that takes us through that. I don't know if that caused any other questions from colleagues, points that anybody would like to raise, but I just want to put it out there again to see if anybody has any questions for Mr. Quintel or administration at this time before we potentially go into a motion. So is there anybody who would, I'll just make a general call out, is there anyone who'd like to weigh in at this time with another question for President Quintel? Or okay, I'm not hearing any responses. So is there anyone that would like to bring a motion at this time?
I have one, Mayor Scott, Councillor Peddle.
Okay, Councillor Peddle, please go right ahead.
Councillor Jeff Peddle requested a special meeting be scheduled for Monday, September the 14th at 4 p.m. and that administration be directed to a mandatory mask bylaw for Council's consideration for that meeting. And thank you. And Chris, I think what you said, I think it'll fall in perfect that, you know, you have something drafted, which is good. And me, the only thing I'll speak on is in the direction of other municipalities. And if it saves lives and the numbers have spiked, I think it's the prudent and right thing to do. Thank you, Mayor Scott.
Okay, so we have a motion out there, and I just want to go to Jade to make sure that that motion was captured and that was heard and would achieve what you were hoping to achieve. Jade?
Hi, Mayor Scott. Thank you. Yes, the motion, I have it here recorded as that a special meeting be scheduled for Monday, September 14th at 4 p.m. and that administration be directed to draft and bring forward a mandatory mask bylaw for council's consideration at that meeting.
Okay, and at this time we would require a seconder.
I'll second that, Scott. Sterna.
Councillor Murphy, thank you for that. So we've got a seconder. So we're going to go through the list again, colleagues, and people can weigh in, ask questions of the administration. Obviously, this is something that's going to be important. Just so everyone on the line knows, that would be an opportunity to have public feedback, which is the, we have Ron Quintel with us tonight, and we've all been receiving various emails, but that would be the opportunity to have public feedback. And just because a bylaw is brought forward doesn't mean it couldn't be modified or changed or even not pass. So with that, I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that, and we'll go through the list again. Councillor Allen.
No questions for administration. Perhaps one for Legend Legal for Jade. If this was to come forward on Monday, would and that's having some form of public hearing, or it doesn't require necessarily a hearing, but would we be able to do all three readings in one time? And I'm assuming that that's the intent of Councillor Peddle.
Thank you, Councillor Allen, through the chair. Yes, you're correct. So typically a bylaw process, it would come forward for first reading just to get it read for the record, and then it would come back at a subsequent meeting. However, for bylaws that are housekeeping matters or bylaws that require urgency attached to them, then we would propose that they be considered for all three readings at the meeting. The bylaw process would be specific in such that it would be read a first time with no debate, and then at second reading, council can hear from all delegations and then go into consideration of the bylaw and the merits within.
Thanks very much. No further questions.
And further response through the chair, I believe it has to be unanimous to go to the third reading on the same day.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. My understanding as well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's a great explanation of process. Councillor Bolson.
No further questions. Mine was just on process as well, but glad to see the motion come forward.
Councillor Lalonde.
I'm not happy to see this motion come forward. I think it's setting us all up for the mask police to be verbally assaulting and physically assaulting people. So I don't know if I'm actually going to vote even for this part of it. So, yeah, I think we're overstepping.
Okay. Next we have Councillor Marr.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I don't mind the motion except for the date. I cannot possibly make it on that Monday. We have a committee of the whole meeting with our board, and I'm sorry, but we are too close to this battleground for me to miss that Cal meeting. We will be doing several things, with the COVID issue in the schools right now. So I can't support Monday the 14th at 4 o'clock. I'll be right in the middle of a committee of the whole meeting with our board.
Okay, Ken, is there a date that you could support? Because it would be good to get as many people participate as possible. Or a time, I guess, Monday.
I could do this Saturday or Friday night. Friday at 4 would be fine. If you want to get this thing going, we might as well get it going.
Councillor Peddle? I think that's a friendly amendment.
Mayor Scott.
Yeah, sorry, I'll go back with you. It may have some process adjustment for us.
Can everyone please mute their lines on their end? I'm getting some feedback. Thank you so much. So Mayor Scott, the only issue with calling a meeting is to make sure that we give the public adequate time to see the bylaw. So my fear would be if we called a meeting for Friday of this week, administration still needs to finalize the bylaw, vet it through the appropriate review channels, and then publish it so that the public's made well aware of what contains within it. So just for council's consideration.
Councillor Marr, would there be a time on the Monday evening that you would be available, like a little bit later, if we started instead of 4 p.m., a little bit later on?
Well, it's kind of like you. We have some enormous issues that we're dealing with at the school boards, and we work at them until we're done. Our committee of the whole meetings usually go from 3 till 7. But they can go from 3 to 9. There's no real end to them. I could find out, but we don't know where this is going to go. We've got a lot of things that we need to deal with COVID and what school. And by then, I just saw today that Syncrude has sent their workers home. I can't tell you what kind of issues that we're going to be dealing with on Monday night or Monday afternoon. However, don't let me hold the process up. I mean, if I'm the only person that can't make it, we just picked this out of the air, I think, right now. If we went on a Thursday night, or I know that we have a meeting on Tuesday night as well, and possibly Wednesday night over another huge issue. But if we went Thursday night, I would be okay for Thursday at 4. It's just that this runs right into a committee of the whole, and I can't do it.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. Colleagues, we do have a motion on the floor, which is Monday at 4. I'm just going to go back to Councillor Peddle to see if he would like to make any adjustments to his motion, subject to Jay telling us that there's some other procedures to suggest.
I'm pretty open, Mayor Scott, to whatever my colleagues have to say, and I appreciate what you're going through, Phil. I mean, I know it's very hard. So I'm certainly flexible. If you want to go Friday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, I'm very flexible, whatever my colleagues would like to do. Sooner the better for me, because I think it's an important area, a topic to deal with because of our numbers in our region, Mayor Scott.
Okay, so why don't I start at the top again, and we'll just go through the list, and if people could indicate of the various options that have been suggested, I think Thursday was another option that Councillor Marr suggested, when they might not be available or when they are available. That way we can nail it down so the public could understand when this is going to proceed. Councillor Allen?
Certainly, I can appreciate Councillor. Phil has a great point there, and I think it gives the administration a little more time to polish that up and get the process done administratively. Additionally, I was going to suggest I may have difficulties connecting on Monday, as I'll be traveling on the Monday itself. So I know Tuesday is an issue for me as well, but I'm doing my best to attend when I can. So Thursday, I will be back home, and I anticipate that would be a far easier time for me to participate.
Okay, colleagues, so I think the suggested time, it looks like that's materializing is Thursday at 4. So if anyone can't do that as we're going through again, could you please indicate that? Councillor Balson?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I can make Thursday at 4. However, I'm not sure with as Councillor Marr said, the topics that we're discussing on Tuesday may run into Wednesday and possibly even Thursday. So it may be a tough thing to also fit that in on Thursday. Personally, if this is going to be moving forward, if that's happening, I'm of the mindset that sooner is better than later. So I would be easily happy to meet on the weekend, whether that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or like Councillor Marr said, doesn't mean we can't meet on Monday, but although it sounds like Councillor Allen might not be available too. So I guess my preference would be over the weekend.
Okay, so back to Councillor Allen. Let's start again. Would you be okay with the weekend, Councillor Allen, if administration was able to get it together? And
yeah, if that's available, I'm certainly available this weekend as well.
Councillor Balson, what time on the weekend would work? Saturday?
I can make any time between Friday and Monday work.
Okay. If somebody has a suggested time as we go through the list, please do that. Councillor Lalonde, when would you be available?
Well, the 14th would work for me. The 17th would work. The weekend does not. I don't know about the rest of you, but most of our administration work full-time jobs, and we don't need them working on the weekends, too.
Okay, back to Councillor Marr. I guess you've already spoken, so basically the weekend wasn't really ideal, but Thursday works for you, as I recall.
So that's fine, Donnie, but remember, we may not get everybody anyway. We don't have Councillor McGrath here tonight answering whether he's going to be. you can't let one person, basically, if you have 6 people, if you have a quorum, you can have a meeting about this. So don't let me stop the whole process. But I would really would love to be there. It's just, this is a situation that has come up, and I'll tell you, our calendars, I look sometimes 2 months out in my calendar of booked dates, and picking a date, and no offense, Councillor Peddle, just, picking a date, you take your chances with some people missing. We have other people missing here tonight. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of, do it when you have to do it, and if we can make it, we can make it. But I'd be more worried about having a quorum than I would about one person missing.
Okay, and we would have a quorum, colleagues, as it stands on Monday night. So let's just keep going through the list, and then we'll go back to Councillor Peddle to see if there's any change. Otherwise, it looks like Monday night seems like we're reverting back and forth. Councillor Murphy, any views?
Yeah, my only view would be that given the sad news today that we had our first death in the region, and that, our numbers had a significant jump today, I would hesitate in delaying this debate. I would rather move forward whenever we can, whenever administration can get that bylaw in front of the public and to us. I think the better. So I'm open for whenever that is.
Councillor Stroud?
Mayor Scott, I guess my concern is we have a council meeting on Tuesday. This last week we had 400 pages. We need time to review this material, and then we would have another item to review. I'm of the opinion that Thursday would be better. It's only because, like I said, 400 pages this last weekend. How many pages are we getting for the meeting on Tuesday, which more than likely will turn over to Wednesday. So I think I'm in favor of the Thursday.
Okay, and there's no perfect date is what's quickly materializing here. There's going to be, it sounds like, and we are missing several people this evening, 3, so and we're not getting their views as well. So we have an existing motion for Monday at 4, unless Councillor Peddle wants to change that. And we've heard several suggestions, including Thursday or the weekend. Councillor Peddle, I'm just going to go back to you to see if there's any adjustment that you think is necessary. Otherwise, it's going to be what you've brought the motion for.
I think certainly sooner the better, and I think Monday is a good time. And I understand where you're coming from, Phil. I do apologise, and it's not about no times are the best times, but this to me is certainly of the public interest. But if all my colleagues said you want to do it Thursday, I'm good with Thursday. So I'm certainly flexible to what everybody wants, but as long as we get it dealt with sooner rather than later.
Okay, colleagues. So the motion as it stands is for Monday at 4 p.m. And unless I see someone adjust it, that's the date that we'll be voting on. Is there anyone else who wants to weigh in on the substance of the motion itself?
Hi, Mayor. It's Jamie here. I want to be cognizant that we want to move forward as quickly as possible, of course, but anything for the remainder of the week or into the weekend, I don't believe it gives adequate time for staff to prepare a bylaw that's ready for public consumption. So Monday at certainly the earliest, or Thursday, and we could also consider Tuesday the 22nd. That would certainly be ample time to get the bylaw completed and published for public review. So just to add that bit of food for thought. Thank you.
Okay. So colleagues, I was just going to go back. Is there anyone who would like to adjust the suggested date? Councillor Peddle, you're the one who brought the motion. Based on all the feedback you've heard, is there anyone who wants to give feedback on the substance of the motion itself?
I appreciate what Jamie said, and Jamie, the only reason I put that date is when Chris had said that they had stuff, they could have it ready by Friday and out for Monday. So that was the only reason I put that date out there, is because they've already been working on something. So that's the only reason I did. And because to me it is, our numbers have more than doubled, and we have one death. I think is an important thing to get brought to the public, and that's not to burden anybody with work or extra pressure or time, but I think it is a matter of public safety, in my opinion. Thank you.
And I see administration's back. Legal counsel, did you have anything you wanted to weigh in with?
Well, Your Worship, I just want to thank my CAO for trying to give us some breathing room. So we'll collaborate with everybody involved and try and bring this forward as expeditiously as possible.
Okay, colleagues, so before we take the vote, who wants to weigh in on this item? And I just had a few concluding comments. I just was going to give some people some details of the discussion with Suncor and Syncrude. I think it was very well summed up by our CAO. Ron has summarized every issue perfectly well. I think we need to, the main thing for me is we want to make sure that the public is giving feedback. We've received a lot of emails, but what we really need is a public meeting where the public can give feedback. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it's important to get public feedback. The Syncrude indicated today they had 23 active cases as of September 8th. AHS has declared an outbreak there. They're taking a lot of steps to make sure that they're addressing the issue as much as they can. Their view was that they needed increased vigilance, and Syncrude wanted to relay a clear message of support and urgency in dealing with a mask bylaw. They believe that an emergency meeting should be called so the matter could be dealt with urgently. And they also were concerned that, and they wanted to see us encourage local businesses because what we're seeing, or what they described was they're seeing different levels of diligence with different businesses in the region. What came out of both the discussion with Syncrude and Suncor is that some of the cases seem to be contracted in our community. So notwithstanding the efforts they're making, they were still being impacted by the community outbreaks. So, and that's exactly what Suncor said. Suncor indicated they had 9 active cases. Everyone is self-isolating and taking steps. They're also deemed an outbreak. A majority of cases in their situation appear to be contracted in the community. And if we are not diligent, it could have a large impact. It will at some point have a business impact. And, you know, everyone is very focused on people's health, which makes perfect sense, and that should be the focus. But you can see how this has the potential of having a significant business impact on the livelihoods of all those who live in this region and are supported in some way by our largest industries. So there's many things for people to consider. The main thing, I think, by setting up a date is that we will have lots of opportunity for public feedback. Whether you disagree with it or agree with it, that's when we can hear from the community in a very public sense, in a public meeting. So with that, I'm going to just go through the list because I suspect we have at least one person in opposition. So I'll go through the list and get people's votes, and Legislative Services will write the votes down. Councillor Allen, are you in favor?
Yes.
Councillor Balson?
Yes.
Councillor Lalonde?
Nope.
Councillor Marr?
Yes.
Councillor Murphy?
Yes.
Councillor Peddle?
Yes.
Councillor Stroud?
I'm in favor, definitely, of the emergency of the meeting. I'm just concerned on how much we're putting on both administration and council to have this meeting on Monday, when we already have a council meeting coming on Tuesday, which could carry over to Wednesday.
Right.
And the other problem is, how much time are we giving our residents for this situation?
Point of order. Point of order.
There's a point of order called because we're actually doing the vote now, not the debate. And there was an opportunity for people to, I shouldn't assume that, but I assume that that's what Councillor Murphy might be headed toward.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Okay. And there was an opportunity for people to adjust Councillor Pettle's motion, which did not happen. So, and I'm in favor as well. And we'll go to Legislative Services for the results.
Hi, Mayor Scott. Just to clarify, Councillor Stroud, how did you vote?
I'm the deciding one. I'll go ahead with it for Monday.
So it's a yes. Can you please clarify for the record?
Third gate, yes.
Thank you. Mayor Scott, that motion carries with 1 opposed.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And as we've said, that's an opportunity for everyone to participate in a meeting on Monday who'd like to weigh in with their opinions and share those with council. So our next item up is item 7, which is a public hearing on bylaw for road closure, Fairway Drive, subdivision plan 1897TR. And I'll declare the public hearing
is now exiting.
I'll declare the public hearing open, and the public hearing is a legislated process, and in making a decision on the proposed bylaw and land use bylaw amendments, council can only consider information received through the hearing. And I'd invite administration at this time to move forward to provide an introduction.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and esteemed members of Council. My name is Amanda Heides, Senior Manager of Planning and Development, and with me this evening is Michael Arcandia, Manager of Land Administration. Michael will be presenting bylaw number 20/020, road closure of Fairway Drive in Fort McMurray.
Thank you, Amanda. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Michael Arcandia, Manager of Land Administration. I'm presenting a report on the road closure of an undeveloped road previously known as Fairway Drive. This road closure is required to facilitate the creation of a lot to be transferred to the McMurray Métis for the construction of a cultural center. The proposed road closure has been circulated to all municipal departments as well as franchise utility companies with no objections. As per the Municipal Government Act, a road closure must be advertised followed by a public hearing. Administration supports the closure as the road does not exist physically, nor is it required for access. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. So we'll go through questions of council at this time. Councillor Allen?
No questions, Your Worship.
Councillor Bolson?
No questions.
Councillor Lalonde?
No questions.
Councillor Meyer?
One of the most exciting things we deal with in council, these road closures. Hard to wait. No questions.
Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, I just had a quick clarification question. This, just to be clear, because I had a member of the public ask me about this over the weekend. It's just the consolidation of the lots, right? This is just another part of the process. I just wanted to clarify that.
Through the chair to the question, that's correct. It is part of the process. We will be doing a consolidation of all the lots and then the creation of a new one.
And we're not expanding on the original ask or anything, are we?
Through the chair to the question, we are not.
Okay, thanks. That's all I was wanting to know.
Councillor Peddle?
No questions, Mayor Scott. Thank you.
Councillor Stroud?
No questions, Mayor Scott.
And I have no additional questions. Thank you, colleagues. Is there any oral delegates registered?
No, Your Worship, there are no verbal delegations.
Okay, any written delegates?
No, Your Worship, no written delegations have been received.
Okay. So that takes us to a vote. Oh, Jade, I just want to make sure that have we already done first reading on this?
Yes, we have done first reading, Mayor Scott. What we need to do next is final question, any closing questions of council and a closing statement from administration prior to closing the public hearing.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions of council? I'll just ask that as a general question. If somebody indicates yes, then we'll go to that person. Not hearing anyone speak, let's go to a closing statement if necessary from administration, or if they'd like to make one.
Administration looks forward to completing this process and working with the McMurray Métis to facilitate land transfer.
Okay, so that takes us through that step. And I just want to confirm, Jade, it looks like my notes might be a little bit mixed up here. Are we, we're now going to second reading?
Hi, Mayor Scott. We're on page 12 right now of the process notes. So we're going to, I need you to declare the public hearing closed, and then we'll move into 7.2, which is second reading of the bylaw.
Okay, so I declare the public hearing closed. We're going to move into second reading, and I call upon Councillor Balsam to make the motion.
I move that bylaw number 20-020, being a road closure bylaw, be read a second time.
And I call upon Councillor Allen to second the motion.
I will second that motion.
And I'll just make the general question. Is there any comments or debate of council? Not hearing anyone respond, so let's go through the list again. Councillor Allen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Balsam?
Yes.
Councillor Lalonde?
Fat finger syndrome. Yes.
Councillor Mark?
Yes.
Councillor Murphy?
Yes.
Councillor Peddle?
Yes.
Councillor Stroud?
Yes.
Okay, colleagues, and I'm a yes, so that carries unanimously. So we'll move into third reading, and I call upon Councillor Lalonde to make the motion.
I move that bylaw number 20/020 be read a third and final time.
And I call upon Councillor Murray to second the motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, colleagues, is there any debate? Sorry, we're getting an echo from somewhere. Is there any debate or comments of council? Not hearing anyone respond, so let's move to the vote. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Please speak now. Not hearing anyone say they're opposed, so that carries unanimously. So with that, colleagues, we're moving on to item 7.3, and I call upon the Deputy CAO, Matthew Huff, to present the report on bear safety.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Matthew Huff, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer. And I bring before Council today a recommended motion that administration pursue an official Bear Smart community designation. This is in response to a resolution passed on June 9 by Council. As identified in the Alberta Bear Smart program, attractant reduction and elimination play a key role in reducing bear presence in urban settings. While there are many opportunities for residents and visitors to practice Bear Smart strategies, there are also opportunities for the municipality. There are also opportunities for the municipality to enhance service levels, which may assist residents in removing or reducing bear attractants on their properties. The examples include increasing the frequency of curbside collection services, the requirement for bear-proof bins region-wide, and/or extending hours at the landfills or transfer stations. These alternatives are not recommended by administration at this time. While they may assist residents in reducing attractants, they should not be treated as assurances and require more careful review through the steps identified in pursuing a Bear Smart community designation. For example, while increased collection services and extended landfill transfer station hours may remove attractants from homes more frequently, if residents utilize them, odors in the bin themselves remain a strong attractant if they are not cleaned regularly and properly. The same logic could be applied to bear-proof bins. Lastly, prohibitions on gardens, select fruits, vegetables, or fruit-bearing trees was not identified as an alternative at this time, as it requires further review. Reducing bear attractants is a collaborative effort. While the work of one resident, homeowner, or business owner can make a positive impact, the negligence of one can have a devastating effect for all. Information provided in the Alberta Bear Smart program should be amplified to ensure that people in our region remain safe and human-caused bear mortalities are reduced. And of course, that property damage is prevented. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. And at this time, before we go to questions for Matthew Huff, I just want to check and see if there's any registered delegates.
Hi, Your Worship. This is Jade, Legislative Services. There is one registered delegate who just joined us, Valerie Quintel. Valerie, if you're with us, you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation to Council.
Okay. Anytime now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, this year it seems that there is an increase of bear presence in the community, most likely due to the human activity in the forested areas around Conklin. And I'm sure other communities are having the same problem also. The bears are becoming less frightened of people and are searching for food in the nearby communities that they habitat and becoming more of a danger. People have been constantly worrying about their children and pets all summer long as the bears are going into the yards and turning over garbage bins and often spreading garbage that are in them. The residents try to contain their garbage as best they can, but some residents do not have garages, sheds, or porches to keep their bags in until garbage pickup. One way we are thinking the community would be to increase the number of days to open the landfill. Currently, the landfill is open Friday, Sunday, and Wednesday. We would greatly appreciate it if Wood Buffalo would consider opening the landfill possibly 5 days a week, maybe shorten the hours from, say, May to October during the bear season. That would greatly, that would help a lot. This would allow us to remove our garbage more frequently, and it would also deter the bears from returning to the same spots. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Now we're going to go through the list. You may get some questions, so please stay on the line with us. Councillor Allen, any questions or comments for this delegate?
No questions, Your Worship.
Councillor Balson?
No questions.
Councillor Lalonde?
Yeah, I actually do have a question. Valerie, in Conklin, do they have the wooden bins at the end of the driveways for garbage collection?
Most people do. They either make their own or they put their own bins out.
So those that have the wooden bins, that keeps all the garbage bags into one area, are they having bears break into that as well?
Yes, those are the ones that the bears are opening and breaking. Like they just get right in there and they bust up the garbage bins.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of killed that idea, didn't it? All right. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Valerie, for your presentation. And just listening to presentation on this, it was said that we have bear presence in urban settings. And I look at it a little bit differently. We have urban settings in the presence of bears home. I think that instead of calling this bear smart, it should be bear awareness. And if we're aware of the bears, I mean, over 43 years now, we have not had a major bear incident on Birchwood Trail. We have lots of people out there. I think if people understand the activity and the behavior of bears and how they actually migrate down the rivers, I mean, the golf course that has the most bears on it is the one right beside the river, and they become quite normalized by the golfers and people around. So I don't know if we're doing ourselves any service or making it worse for the bears, but this has been a real how do I put it nicely? It's been a real busy year for bears. We've had more sightings this year than we've ever had before. Because of the time I spend in Birchwood Trails and along the rivers and stuff on the weekends and later in the day and in the mornings, I've had 17 bear sightings this year, which is up that's almost double what I usually see in the course of a year. So I can see why we're concerned about this, but I still think we need to have the respect, and if we have an understanding and that we are aware of the bears, we will take the proper steps to avoid an ugly interaction with them. If everything is working the way it should, and that we have that respect. So it's not that I'm a bear hugger or anything, or a tree hugger. I just think that we have to acknowledge the fact that bears do certain things. They follow certain migration patterns, and they don't mean to get into our garbage. It's just some of us leave the lids open, or there's things around that attract them. But thank you for your presentation again.
Thank you.
Councillor Murphy?
No, I don't have any questions. Just thanks for the presentation.
Councillor Peddle?
No, same thing. Just thanks for your presentation, and have a wonderful evening.
Councillor Stroud?
You too.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, and to the presenter. Yes, Valerie, you're probably aware that one of the bears got into a doghouse, and when a boy went out this morning to check on his dog, the bear came out. I think we really have some very valid concerns in Conklin. The other resident, as you're probably aware of, had a mother and 3 cubs in her yard, and the cubs were underneath the porch. And the concern was if the child had gone out there in between the mother and the cub, there would, it could have been disastrous. So I'm sure you're aware of those situations that are happening in Conklin also with the bears.
Yes, I am. I just didn't hear about the most recent one this morning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I appreciate your presentation, and I look forward to seeing what the municipality can do for John V. and Conklin in regards to the waste transfer stations. Thank you.
Yes, I would just echo my colleagues' comments. Thank you very much for the presentation. Could you give us a sense, from your perspective, how much the increase is over previous years? We heard Councillor Maher describe the circumstances on Birchwood Trails, but could you give us a sense of your area and what the increase is?
Yeah, it's quite similar. Like the past couple of years haven't been so bad, but I'd say it's probably tripled. You used to see the odd bear come around, but now it's like a daily thing. And in all areas like Poplar Drive, Pine Lane, Christina Lake Drive, they're everywhere. And they're getting bigger. They started small, but they are, it's a daily thing.
Thank you so very much for your participation. We're certainly grateful for it, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor Scott.
Okay, so back to administration again. Are there any written delegates?
No, Your Worship, there are no written delegations.
Thank you. So I'll call upon Councillor Maher to make the motion, and then we're going to go to administration for questions. Councillor Maher?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, I don't believe that we can make the bears any smarter, but we can become more aware. But I move that administration pursue an official bear smart community. That could also be a bear aware community.
Okay, and I think just the word designation is slapped on the end there. Councillor Murphy, do you second the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Jade, any concerns with the motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council members, we are looking for direction. The recommendation from administration is that we pursue an official Bear Smart Community designation. So can we confirm that that's included in the motion?
Councillor Maher, back to you.
Yeah, sorry, I wrote it down on a sheet of paper. I probably left that word out because I have to keep going back and forth on my iPad here to actually be able to talk to you, because I go back and look at what's up next to the process notes. So I wrote it down and I probably just left it off. So it is a designation that we'd want, and that would be included.
Jade, any concerns?
Not at all. Thank you for clarifying that for the record.
Okay, colleagues, so this is an opportunity to ask questions of administration or make debate points. So we'll go through the list again. Councillor Allen?
I have no questions, Your Worship, but just a comment perhaps that I think Councillor Maher makes an excellent point about bear aware. However, I'm pretty sure there isn't a bear aware community designation. So while we can get the Bear Smart designation, certainly our communications, just as a consideration, it would be, I think, worthwhile using that term broadly in our communications on Bear Smart about being bear aware. Because he's absolutely correct. Our urban areas and all of our settled areas are actually in bear country. So no, a good motion, and it certainly has my support.
Councillor Balsam?
No questions at this time, thanks.
Councillor Lalonde?
This question is for administration. How much is this going to cost, and what kind of impact is it going to have on our budget?
Through the Chair to Councillor Lalonde, as noted in the Council report, the budget impact associated with each of the alternatives has not been fully explored. However, one can expect that the pursuit of the designation would have an operational budget impact and should be considered. This will certainly be something that administration will endeavour to flag for Council during this year's budget deliberations.
So, in other words, you don't have any idea how much it's going to cost?
Through the Chair to Councillor Lalonde, as I mentioned, we will bring this forward during budget.
Councillor Marr?
No, I think I've said enough on this subject. Certainly agree with it. Thank you.
Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I actually have lots of questions about this whole program because I spent way too much time reading that whole entire onslaught of information that we got in our package. And my concerns are more of just some of the logistics and as Sheila mentioned, the cost as well. I'm not really willing to spend money on things that we already know might not work. And then some of my concerns, if you go to page 123, there was several items on there where they talk about only putting the garbage bins out at 7:30, adding lime to the garbage for the smell or to keep the smell down, bright lights on the bins, all those kinds of things. Would that just be an education piece, or is that something that we're going to be trying to enforce?
Through the chair to Councillor Murphy, the primary purpose of the Bear Smart program is indeed education, and so the vast majority of the activity would be to work with our communications department and educate the public on how to cohabitate with bears in our region. There will be a number of operational elements that we will take a look at following this discussion. And as noted in the report again, whether it's curbside collection services, the use of bear-proof bins, extending hours at landfills and transfer stations, these are all things that we'll work with our departments to determine whether we want to propose them to council. I hope this explanation helps.
So those things would still come back to us for approval through the budget process?
Through the chair to Councillor Murphy, that's right, as is the case with any initiative of this kind, yes.
Yeah, I guess my only, again, my reluctance is just the fact that, we know that the bear-proof bins don't work in Sapere, and I don't want to put out any more money, of taxpayers' money, to try these initiatives when we already know that they don't work here. So I guess we would be looking at that during budget, but I guess I would ask administration to keep that in mind when you're looking at these opportunities.
Okay, next we have Councillor Peddle.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. This one here certainly it's filled with. I grew up in Wabash, Labrador, and we had bears around every week. And it was an education level when you were kids of to make noise and let the bears know you're there. And there was no money, there was no bear programs, but everybody was obviously safe. So to me, I certainly agree with the public education piece. But we live in northern Alberta, in bear country. Bottom line, the bears are never going to go away, and the bears are always going to go here. And I guess very similar to Councillor Murphy's point is how much money are we going to spend at this? And I think for years we've been educating the public, and I think that's what we're talking about. But I mean, and a lot of it to me is common sense stuff, obviously. So that's my only fear is how much money are we going to toss at a program that people know we live in the northern region, we live in the middle of the woods. We're going to see bears, bottom line. So that's my only fear is how much money we're going to toss at a bear program. And we've put a lot of money into the bear program in the past. And do I agree with it? Yes, but I think, to me it's just 100% public education. Again, every store we had in Labrador had a culvert and a bear trap behind it. So there were bears every day, but we didn't have any issues because everybody was aware and everybody was educated, about them. So that's my only thing is how much money are we going to spend on something that, to me, we live in the middle of the woods. We're going to run into bears every day. That's part of where we live and what we deal with. So that's my only concern is even though if we have a Bear Smart designation, we're still going to see bears, bottom line, because we live in northern Alberta. So that's my only fear. Thank you.
Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. My question, Matthew, is you're asking to pursue an official Bear Smart community designation. Is this the same as the Alberta Bear Smart Community Program? Because normally this falls under the province.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud, my understanding is that, yes, this is one and the same, but it's the community that pursues the designation. You're not wrong that the management of black bears is the responsibility of Fish and Wildlife, a division of Alberta Ministry of Environment and Parks. But this is the medium by which that group suggests communities conduct themselves. The Alberta Bear Smart Program manual in the agenda package illustrates that this is indeed a Government of Alberta fostered program.
Thank you, Matthew. And Mayor Scott, I just want to let you know I'd like to bring a supplemental motion following consideration of the administrative recommendation.
Okay, thank you for that. And we made it through the list, colleagues. I guess I would just have one question for administration. Is our region likely to be safer with this program, and the residents of our region likely to be safer? I realize you're speculating, but in your best estimate.
Through the chair to the chair, this is the program that is recommended for communities to adopt and to seek the designation. So I think it is a useful guide for our operational departments to follow.
You should be a lawyer. That's a very careful answer. Thank you very much for that. So with that, colleagues, I'm going to support this. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a debate point or ask a further question? Okay, so let's go through the list and see how everyone votes on this. Do you support the motion? Councillor Allen?
I'm in favor, yes.
Councillor Balson?
Yes.
Councillor Levant?
Nope.
Councillor Mark?
Yes.
Councillor Murphy?
No.
Councillor Peddle?
Yes.
Councillor Stroud?
Yes, Mayor Scott.
And I'm a yes. Still will go to Legislative Services for the results.
The motion carries with 2 opposed.
Okay, colleagues, so that takes us to a supplementary motion by Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I move that administration be directed to review the operations of the waste transfer stations in Conklin and John Bay and bring forward to Council during the 2021 budget meetings to report on whether the waste transfer stations can be fully operational 5 days a week during bear season in anticipation of spring 2021. So in reviewing the landfill hours for the various hamlets, I do see a disparity in hours and days. The range is from 7 days a week and 84 hours to 3 days a week and 24 hours. So that is quite a difference in the waste transfer station's operations. And both Conklin and John VA are in the 3 days and 24 hours a week.
Okay, thank you for that motion. So, colleagues, I would need a seconder for the motion. Councillor Balson, do you second the motion?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Okay, colleagues, so I'll go through the list to see if there's anyone who wants to ask questions of administration or make debate points. Councillor Allen?
No more questions, Your Worship.
Councillor Bolson?
No, thank you.
Councillor Lalonde?
Probably just for Jane. This is just to clarify, but you want the Conklin Waste Transfer Station open 5 days a week during bear season, so from March till October-ish?
Yeah, 6 months.
Okay, just clarifying.
Councillor Marr?
No problem. Great.
Councillor Murphy?
Do we have a cost on how much that would be and the usage currently? I guess that question would be for Matthew.
Through the chair to Councillor Murphy, we do not, but my understanding of the motion is that that would be part and parcel of doing the research and bringing it back to Council for consideration.
That's correct, Matthew.
Councillor Peddle?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. I guess, Jane, you'll have to educate me. Is why is my question? Has there been problems there? Is not enough garbage picked up? Like, that's my biggest question before we go forward and get administration to do the work. Is there a problem there now?
Yes, there is. Jeff, what happens is, for example, their garbage pickup is once a week, and it's 4 garbage bags. So the garbage bags themselves are an incentive to the bears, and so some of the residents there don't put their garbage out. They take it to the waste transfer station. It's just to keep the bears away. I had called a resident yesterday about this problem, and it is quite a serious problem in Conklin. And when I look at some rural hamlets having their waste transfer stations open 7 days a week, up to 84 hours. And then you look at Conklin, John Bay with 24 hours. I think, just in fairness that, to give them one more day a week and with consultation with the residents, maybe just 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. But it would just give them that security that they could take their garbage during the bear season to the waste transfer station.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Okay, Councillor Stroud, any additional comments?
I'm good, Mayor Scott. I understand, about the bear-proof bins, and they're not as useful as has been determined. I know there's a big expense to them. You need a special truck. I think the cost of opening the waste transfer station for 1 hour a day, for 1 week, for 8 hours a day for 6 months would be nowhere near the cost of those bear-proof bins plus the truck that needs to be, bought to handle that situation. Thank you.
Okay, and we've gone through the list, so I just had one question for administration. Do you have any comments, administration, on the motion itself?
Through the chair to the chair, no more comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, so I'll ask the general question, and then if there is opposition, we'll go through it one at a time. Is there anyone in opposition to this motion? Okay, I didn't hear anyone respond, so that is carried unanimously. Thank you for that, colleagues. So that takes us to new business. That's a request for a tax relief for Plan 1521610, Block 1, Lot 1 in Moose Haven Lodge. So I'd call upon Linda Olivier to present the report.
Is now exiting.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Linda Olivier, Director of Financial Services. Administration received a request for cancellation of penalty of $18,821.54 for the property legally described as Plan 1521610, Block 1, Lot 1. The penalties were assessed due to a late payment of 2019 taxes. This property includes Moose Haven Lodge, which was being closed and dismantled in June 2019. The property owner suffered a financial hardship as a result of the closing. All property tax values were based on July 1st, 2018 valuation with the physical condition date of December 31st, 2018. The property owner did receive a decrease on the taxes levied for 2020, which accounts for the June 2019 dismantling. Payment of the 2019 property taxes were due June 28, 2019, and payment was received May 27th, 2020. Reminder notices were sent to the property owner after each penalty being applied. At no time was the municipality contacted by the property owner to dispute the penalties. On June 5th, 2020, a request for relief of penalties was received. There are other property owners within
is now exiting.
Also facing financial hardship, and therefore it would not be fair or just for this taxpayer to receive a cancellation of penalties while others have not. It is recommended that this request be denied.
Okay, colleagues. So we have that presentation. So we'll now see if there's any registered delegates. Are there any written delegates? Or sorry, any oral delegates first?
No, Your Worship, there are no verbal delegations, nor are there any written submissions for this matter.
Okay, so next we'll call upon Councillor Peddle to make the motion.
Thank you, Mayor Scott.
Okay. Before we proceed, my apologies, Councillor Peddle. I understand that Councillor Stroud may have an alternative motion she'd like to bring forward. Councillor Stroud, do I have that right?
Yes, Mayor Scott.
Please go ahead.
I want to make a motion that is different than administration's recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, I want to make the motion that the request for penalties on 2019 taxes for the property legally described as Plan 1521610, Block 1, Lot 1, Moose Haven Lodge in the amount of $18,821.54 be written off. In reviewing the report, it states that it would not be fair or just for this taxpayer to receive a cancellation of penalties. We did this previously for another business owner this year. I think it is important to look at how the RMWB advertises, local newspaper and local radio stations. Moose Haven Lodge is near John V. Neither of these advertisements will reach John V as there is no local newspaper. Which local radio stations is the RMWB advertising on? John V does not get the local radio stations from Fort McMurray. As for advertising on the municipal website, due to lack of connectivity in the rural, this is also unrealistic. We discussed reminder notices when we waived the penalties for the previous business owner this year and asked if registered letters were sent, and the answer was no. I do know the province does not have addresses for Chippewa and Prairie Dene First Nation, where Chief John V. resides. The address that the municipality has, Plan 1521610, Block 1, Lot 1, Moose Haven Lodge. In talking to a representative from Canada Post, I believe you would need the name of the community and a street address or box number. So I'm not sure how this information is going to First Nations. So this is why I'm asking for, I want to make a motion that the request for penalties on 2019 taxes for the property legally described as Plan 1521610, Block 1, Lot 1, Moose Haven Lodge, in the amount of $18,821.54 be written off. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues. So that motion is the opposite of the motion that was proposed, just so everyone's aware of it. So we're going to look for a seconder so that we can at least get into the debate and other things to do with that motion. Councillor Murphy, did you want to second that motion?
Nope.
Is there anyone who's on the line that would like to second the motion?
Mayor Scott, I'll second the motion for the purpose of opening debate, and then we'll reserve my right to choose how to vote when we vote.
Okay, so that was Councillor Balsam that seconded. So let's go into questions of council, followed, including any debate points that people would like to make. So, Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Your Worship, and no questions, just I guess more of a comment. And I can appreciate where the proponent that's requesting the relief is coming from. I also appreciate the motion that your municipal representative, Councillor Stroud, is making. I certainly do appreciate that. What I'm concerned about is precedent, and I can tell you from a personal level, I'm well familiar with. I mean, if I was to vote in favor of this motion, I would probably have to recuse myself from this debate. However, I too am concerned about the potential of setting that precedent. And given that tax notices and penalty notices are being sent and no relief was requested until mid of 2020, I would suggest that it would be inappropriate for us to write that amount off. So I'm afraid I have to vote against Councillor Stroud's motion and would actually support the administrative motion.
Okay, next we have Councillor Balsam.
Just as a point of clarity to Councillor Stroud, are you recommending that we waive this because, just to simplify things, there was a lack of communication with them through the process due to the lack of internet access and address, et cetera, et cetera? I just want to make sure I'm understanding your argument to this motion.
Yes, Councillor Balsam. So this is similar to the other person that came forward previously, and we did not, put the penalties through. So I'm just using that example for this example. We wrote off the previous gentleman that came to council for the penalties. So I'm just saying, well, okay, if we do it for one person, why are we not doing it for the next person?
Thank you for that. I don't recall the particular specifics of that case, but for me to be able to vote for this, I would need administration to bring us an understanding of that precedent. At the very least, I think the most I could do would just to perhaps take some more time to understand the process and the methods of communication, but I have a hard time voting to support it as it stands right now. Thank you.
I agree with you, Councillor Balsam. So possibly administration could explain the difference between the two cases, if that's possible.
Through the chair to Councillor Stroud and Councillor Balsam. The case that you're referring to prior was a gentleman within Fort McMurray, the urban centre, who indicated that he had not received any of the notices. We have not had that told to us in this particular case. So we couldn't go any further except to accept what the gentleman had said. So that is the difference at this particular time.
Okay, next we have Councillor Laval.
My biggest concern is well, actually, I'm agreeing with Mike. We're setting this is setting precedent. I mean, right now, property taxes is where we get our revenue, and if we keep writing off the user fees and the penalties and everything else, boys, I can tell you right now, we're not going to make that 5-1, and we're going to raise our residential property taxes for everybody in the RMWB to ungodly numbers. We've got to stop mollycoddling everybody and start standing our ground. Say, oh, let's pay it. Let's get it done. That's my thought on it.
Councillor Marr.
So my mother always said there are two things in life, death and taxes. We cannot, like, this is setting a precedent, as some of my fellow councillors have said. I can't see me agreeing with this. I'm sorry, but there's no free ride. And again, I feel for the situation, but we'd have people lining up if this goes through. Thanks.
Councillor Murphy?
Yeah, thanks to the chair. I'm in agreement with hopefully the majority. I voted against the forgiveness of that first case that came to us, and I won't be supporting this motion either. We're all facing hard times, and it's, unfortunate that we don't have bags of money to give out, but you can't tell me that property owners don't know that they have to pay their taxes every year, especially, a facility that's been in business for several years. They know that that's due every year, and it's an unfortunate situation, but it would be very, very dangerous to support this motion, so I won't be in support. Thank you.
Councillor Puddle?
I certainly agree. This stuff I don't even think should ever come to council. People pay taxes. That's it. Bottom line, there should be no cancellation for any reason. They pay their taxes. Everybody does it. Every business knows they have to do it. Thank you.
Councillor Stroud, any further comments or points? Councillor Stroud?
Sorry, Mayor Scott, my iPad was acting up. Yeah, I just realized that, previously that we passed a motion for the penalty fees to be waived. So I'm struggling on how this is any different than the previous resident that we passed, waiving the penalties, and which was in the urban area. Thank you. This is in the rural.
Okay, thanks for that. So we've gone through the list. So I'll just put that question to administration. Could you describe what makes this situation different than the last situation that's being described by Councillor Stroud?
Through the chair to the chair. The only thing that I could say is that the gentleman did come to council to explain the situation of not receiving any of the mail. We've not heard that from this particular taxpayer, and this taxpayer has paid the taxes in a prior history, so I really don't know if they received them or not.
And is it fair to say that it would be normal or a normal process for us to actually receive that information from the taxpayer themselves?
Through the chair to the chair, that is correct.
Okay. Because then we could question the taxpayer about that.
That is correct.
Have you received any notice at all that would indicate that they never received notice?
Through the chair to chair, no, we have not.
Okay. And when would be the normal window of opportunity to receive that notice?
Through the chair, which notice? The penalty notice? Or yeah. They would have received a notice as soon as they had not paid. So typically we send them out on a quarterly basis.
Okay. And what advertising does the municipality do about municipal taxes? We've certainly talked about it as far as the COVID-19 situation, so people would be aware that there would be tax bills due.
Through the chair, that is correct. We do use social media. We do use the radio. We use and also we do use the paper. As many avenues that are available to us, we do have a massive campaign telling everybody about the taxes.
Okay, so there is an awareness campaign that we put out, and people would normally respond to that if they haven't received a notice. Would be your experience?
To the chair, that is correct.
Okay, colleagues. With that, I'll go through the list. Now is an opportunity to vote on this. Do you support the motion? So the motion brought by Councillor Stroud was essentially the opposite of the motion that was suggested by administration. Councillor Allen?
No.
Councillor Balson?
No.
Councillor Lalonde?
No.
Councillor Meyer?
No.
Councillor Murphy?
No.
Councillor Peddle?
No.
Councillor Stroud?
Yes.
And I'm a no. Over to Ledge Services, just for the summary.
Thank you, Your Worship. The motion was defeated with 1 for, 7 opposed.
Okay, because the motion was brought as the opposite of the motion suggested, do we need any further motions to resolve this issue in the opinion of Legislative Services or Council?
No, Your Worship. This is Jade Brown, Legislative Services. Essentially, by Council defeating the motion, you are denying the request.
Okay, so the next item is item 8.2, which is the critical importance of keeping regional emergency services EMS dispatch within Wood Buffalo. This is obviously a matter that's been in the news a lot and is something that's close to, I think, many of our hearts. And there's been no fiercer advocate for us than Jody Butts and his team. And please take it away and present the report.
Good evening, Mayor Scott and members of council. For the record, my name is Jody Butts, the Regional Fire Chief for Wood Buffalo, and with me today here is Kelly Roberts, the Deputy Chief of Operations. Unfortunately, we're here today to discuss a recent announcement made by Alberta Health Services to consolidate EMS dispatch services in the province of Alberta by reducing the amount of dispatch centers from 6 to 2 across the province. This decision made by Alberta Health Services will remove emergency medical dispatch services from our region and send the 911 caller to either Peace River or Edmonton to speak to a dispatcher for call information. Regional Emergency Services is opposed to this change and asked for the support from Mayor Scott and members of council to advocate in opposition to the decision to consolidate EMS dispatch services provincially. On August 4th, 2020, Alberta Health Services announced its plan to centralize and consolidate the dispatching of EMS within 80 days for the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo and 3 other cities, including Lethbridge, Red Deer, and Calgary. Alberta Health Services is rationalizing this decision based on a recent performance review conducted by Ernst & Young. The report was an economic exercise to look for cost efficiencies on provincial spending. The report recommended a consolidation of satellite dispatch centers into the existing centralized AHS primary dispatch centers. This would realize a provincial cost savings of approximately $5 million. Here locally, for the RMWB, the cost savings for the province is $660,000 annually. So on a provincial scale, what would be described as marginal cost savings will absolutely cost time. And in the chain of survival, that means lives. The Regional Emergency Services operates a fully integrated fire and EMS service for the Wood Buffalo region. The integrated dispatch service is a crucial component of coordinated emergency response for our region. And in both fire and EMS, between our urban and rural departments and our industrial mutual aid partners, we've been doing this since the 1970s because we've had to, and it works for us. The decision to remove the emergency medical dispatch services from our region will significantly reduce the quality of this critical service. Our team of local professional dispatchers manage emergency response resources for the entire region. As an integrated fire EMS service and 911 emergency communication dispatch center, we are able to provide a higher level of service to the region through seamless coordination of services and additional resources as the situation demands. RES has a decade of experience working as a third-party contractor to Alberta Health Services in EMS dispatch services. Statistically speaking, the evidence shows that our local dispatch team outperforms the province's primary dispatch centers by 41%. Our local dispatch team dispatches an ambulance 48 seconds faster than AHS, 90% of the time. Our local dispatch team can verify addresses almost 30 seconds faster than AHS. This is what the cost is. This is what the impact will be. It's time. Let me repeat that. Our dispatchers can verify an address and send an ambulance almost a minute faster. This is a significant amount of time in the chain of survival, and that means lives. So I can appreciate the question is, how does RES dispatchers do this faster than AHS? Well, very simply, we were able to find efficiencies in the AHS process by leveraging our integrated model and taking advantage of the dispatchers being in the same room for in-person communication, getting the right resources to at the fastest possible time. As well as Mayor Scott has referred to, our local knowledge and familiarity with landmarks and hard-to-find places is crucial when our region is so vast and the civic addressing is non-existent in some areas. The geographical separation in the northeastern part of the province has forced us to find local solutions to adapt to the uniqueness of our region. The Local Hero Foundation is an excellent example of a local solution that meets a critical life-saving service in this region. We are asking for your assistance at this time to advocate that the EMS dispatch services remain local. At this time, I'd like to turn the time over to Kelly Roberts to explain the changes from an end user and from an operational perspective through a presentation prepared for you today. We can queue up the presentation, that'll be great.
Thank you, Chief Butts. If we move to slide 2. Right now, our center supplies 911 call answer and fire EMS dispatch services to the entire region. This integrated model allows our center to share situational awareness with each other to the benefit of the responders and the community. It means that each dispatcher has context to the situation and improved decision-making that allows them to think ahead and anticipate events and requests. This model is compact and efficient. Go to the second slide, please. To lose our satellite dispatch center to the AHS announcement
is now joining.
To the AHS announcement for consolidation divides this big picture. Local dispatchers will be disconnected from the EMS component of our service. This new system creates risk for the community and our first responders. Chief Butts mentioned some time-based metrics that we will go into shortly, which shows that AHS does not have the same ability to dispatch EMS services that our local dispatchers achieve. But there are other impacts that we could face. First, information that is shared with our local 911 dispatcher may not get repeated by the caller to the AHS dispatcher. This can lead to scene safety situations for responders, and that recently happened on August 23rd, where the 911 caller indicated that the patient seemed violent, but when talking with the EMS dispatch, they did not mention the same thing. Our center was able to catch this detail as we process the calls, but it could easily be missed in the future, placing callers and responders in unsafe situations. The same situation can happen when trying to address an event. The caller could give a clear address or a landmark when talking with a local dispatcher, but not repeat that critical information to the AHS dispatcher. This model also creates risks of losing the caller during the transferring process or adds potential for delays as more people are brought into the event. Switch slides. So right now, since August 2016, Alberta Health Services has installed their systems and technology inside of our current local dispatch center. And that was the start of our formal satellite dispatch contract.
As part of the contract, we're also required to follow Alberta Health Service processes. What that means is that AHS claims that consolidation would improve patient care through more efficient coordination of EMS resources, sending the nearest available ambulance to a patient regardless of geographical boundaries, is not accurate, as satellite dispatch centers are already integrated in the provincial dispatch model, using all the same technology of an AHS-run center and the same local service standards under the same medical director. They also have said that consolidation will result in improved patient care by ensuring rapid and consistent dispatch services across all communities. This is also not accurate. All of the satellite dispatch centers follow Alberta Health Services guidelines, are accredited, and are using the same medical protocols. What it could result is in further lack of control and governance for the services in our region as Alberta Health Services tries to standardize processes across the province. Good. AHS is proposing to absorb the call volume of all of the satellite dispatch centers. With that move, they will increase their call volume by 88%, nearly doubling the roughly 200,000 calls a year by adding another 180,000 from all the satellite dispatch centers across the province. Click. So AHS has no plan for our region. Some regions have system status management protocols that provide guidance on cross-coverage between ambulance services, like when a Leduc ambulance is assigned to events in the Edmonton area. But the RFWB does not have a system status management plan for our region, as there's no one in the region to share coverage with. In fact, Alberta Health Services admits that Fort McMurray is an isolated community with no access to regional EMS capacity. If extra capacity is required, they indicate they need to collaborate with local operations to determine calling capacity. And this calling capacity is leveraged by our integrated fire EMS model and our mutual aid partnerships with industry. Even as a satellite dispatch center, we struggle with the restrictions that Alberta Health Services places on us. Once consolidation is complete, we do not foresee improvements in their willingness to collaborate. We have recently approached AHS to implement changes to speed up responses and improve service delivery in our region, and were declined. Change slide.
Next slide, please.
So we do not feel that the AHS statements that the decision was based on patient care is accurate, as our local center demonstrates consistent high level of skill.
If we could back up the one slide, please. It's important. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. As Chief Butts mentioned, 90% of the time, Fort McMurray can go from call answered through address verification and dispatch in 1 minute and 7 seconds. These are June 2020 statistics for our region. In the same time metrics, Alberta Health Services took 1 minute and 50 seconds. So this is the extra 43 seconds is significant when your loved one is waiting for help. So these time-based metrics are set by Alberta Health Services and monitored by them, and we've exceeded their standards within the benchmarks and against their own provincial centers. Our local center and our processes can allow us to get an ambulance dispatched 43 seconds faster than Alberta Health Services, as shown in these statistics. We save time in address verification, as we're able to leverage the 911 call answer information and our own local knowledge to enter an address quickly. We can dispatch an ambulance faster as we complete what's called vertical dispatch, where the call taker dispatches the unit. In the AHS model, the call taker and dispatcher are separate roles. AHS has indicated there will be no delay in patient care with the consolidation, and that the computer system will be leveraged to balance the lack of local awareness. Our region receives over 80% of our 911 calls via cell phone users, requiring dispatchers to determine an event address by asking the caller questions. In our community with a shadow population, or for the regular resident in a moment of crisis, giving a civic address is hard, even when one is available. It's that local knowledge that helps our center verify the address so quickly. The AHS system does not have an address for the traffic circle by the bridge, or the pond just south of Fort McMurray, or the building downtown where the brick used to be, or where the gas station on Highway 881 is, let alone that gas station is a Pritzker of Canada. We are also accredited as an International Academy of Emergency Medical Dispatch Center of Excellence. As part of that, we have a robust quality assurance program, and in August 2020, our center had 95% compliance, which is well above the accreditation standards and our AHS counterparts.
Next slide, please.
The current contract with AHS for dispatch services provides partial cost recovery to the region, benefiting the region, but there has been very little change over the last 10 years. The AHS contract that is being canceled provides approximately $660,000 a year, which offsets some of the costs to provide EMS dispatch services of approximately $885,000. Next slide. This is not the first time that Alberta Health Services has proposed to consolidate dispatch centers in an effort to reduce costs and improve patient care. In 2009, the Foothills Regional Emergency Services Commission lost their EMS dispatch capabilities to Alberta Health Services, separating the consolidated 911, fire, and EMS dispatch center. Since then, they have been regretting the decision and have been actively advocating for its return. Some of their findings are summarized in this slide, but in addition to that, in 2019, the Commission found that on 42% of their medical first response requests were delayed more than 3 minutes. This impact can hit the rural and Indigenous communities the hardest, as ambulances are stationed inside Fort McMurray, and the medical first responses are supported by the local volunteer fire departments. The Commission also argued that taxpayers end up paying twice for infrastructure. The bulk of infrastructure needed for 911 centers and for fire dispatch centers is also used by EMS dispatch centers. This means that municipalities are funding 911 and fire, while the Government of Alberta is funding EMS. Both these sources of funding ultimately come from the taxpayer. With every increasing technological advancement that centers need to keep up with, it could be argued that the consolidated AHS dispatch model is costing everyone millions of dollars to maintain. If we refer to slide 3 in your packages, we spoke that the separation of EMS from a single dispatch center can lead to less situational awareness. The Commission confirmed that they have seen less coordination since their transition in 2009. There is also a risk of public transparency. Once the consolidation is complete, the only source of the complete EMS picture will be Alberta Health Services, and all requests will need to be made through them for information related to local needs. Their lack of desire to share is already present in the limited connection they allow our regional emergency services within our current contracts. We have limited information and losing our ability to analyze patterns in our community and advocate for additional services.
Thanks, Kelly. Next slide. Alberta Health Services' decision to consolidate EMS dispatch impacts the entire region. We are out in the community informing and communicating this change to the region. We have reached out to the local Indigenous groups and communities, and I'd certainly like to give my personal thanks to and support to Chief Janvier and the Chippewa Prairie First Nation, Chief Granjam to the Fort McKay First Nations, and the Willow Lake Métis Nations. As well, we're out there informing and educating our industrial partners. The Oil Sands Community Alliance has placed the topic on the agenda in front of their board. We have reached out to all operating companies within the RMWB and have shared the information about the impacts that consolidation would have, and a number of them have replied that they are working with their internal government relations and safety teams to assess. Our industrial mutual aid partners that work closely with RES are informed and understand the negative impact this will have in their role in assisting with the delivery of EMS services in the region. Like the other industrial stakeholders, they are working with their internal public relations professionals to express their concern. You will hear from IAFF Local 2494 President Rob Van Heck shortly, as he represents our local labor force. Additionally, a letter of support opposing this change has been sent from Alberta Firefighters Association. A media campaign led by our RMWB communications team is in action. And with your support, we plan to issue a news release tomorrow, launching a local advocacy campaign, further encouraging residents to send letters to Minister Shandro and local MLAs. In the view of the Regional Emergency Services, it is the view of the Regional Emergency Services that the proposed provincial integration of EMS dispatch services fails to recognize and respect the needs of our unique, vast, and remote region. The provincial plan discredits the value of our integrated services delivery and the strong existing partnerships with industry and our local Hero Foundation. The proposed consolidation will likely result in poor patient outcomes in return for marginal and disputable cost savings. For the above reasons, AHS's approach of a one-size-fits-all provincial model does not work for our region. This decision does not just impact the governance, administration, and operations of dispatching in our region. It impacts how resources are deployed as a result, both in timing and in the amount of resources which are sent to an emergency scene. Our core value in making EMS decisions has always been in the best interest of patient care. As part of our commitment to positive patient outcomes and appropriate care, our region has been absorbing additional costs of dispatch services and ground ambulance services beyond that of the current provincial funding model. The Alberta Health Services decision removes all forms of regional governance into the quality of the EMS services local and is applying one-size-fits-all. With this change, dispatch times will increase, and underdeployment of emergency response resources may occur during critical emergencies. It's important to understand or recognize that Regional Emergency Services has a decade of experience as a contract provider to Alberta Health Services and allows us to say with a very high degree of confidence that the consolidation of dispatch by AHS will lead to the end of integrated service delivery and efficient patient-focused EMS services in our region. It is foreseeable that AHS will wish to completely take over the ground ambulance service in the region. It is likely that after 2023, so in the next 2 to 3 years, RMWB will have lost the ability to control our own local resources, essentially removing us from the EMS business, but still requiring us to be delivering those essential services. The time is now, and the time, as you have heard, is very critical. Please flip to the next slide, please. So in closing, today we're looking for your support to publicly demonstrate your commitment to preserving EMS medical services dispatch operated by Regional Emergency Services in Wood Buffalo and advocate, including sending letters to the Government of Alberta officials in opposition to Alberta Health Services changes to consolidate EMS dispatch provincially. And also that Council continue advocacy with mayors and operational leads of the satellite dispatch centers, including Red Deer, Calgary, and Lethbridge for the continuance of RES's coordinated EMS dispatch services in the region. And with that, that concludes our presentation this evening, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much for that very thorough presentation, and we're certainly grateful for all the work that both of you do. And Kelly, congratulations on your recent announcement. We are very pleased to have you in that position, and that's something I've certainly told the media that we're very proud of as well. So with that, I understand that we do have 2 registered delegates. Is that right, Jed?
Yes, Your Worship, that's correct.
Okay, so our first registered delegate, and then we're going to go back to questions for administration, but our first registered delegate is Rob Van Heck with the IAFF Union. Rob, please go right ahead. You have 5 minutes to present.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Scott and members of Council. For the record, my name is Rob Van Heck, and I am president of the Fort McMurray Firefighters Association, IFF Local 2494, and a captain with Regional Emergency Services. I represent 175 full-time firefighters paramedics, and dispatchers within the city of Fort McMurray, and we service the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. We have heard many times over the years, dating back to 2005, a promise from AHS of a more efficient, cost-effective EMS system. The recent announcement of dispatch centralization will not achieve those promises. This consolidation will result in longer wait times for an EMS crew to arrive at the location of a person in need of medical attention. Every day, 365 days a year, our professional, highly trained and skilled dispatchers answer 911 emergency calls and make critical, timely decisions to ensure that the appropriate resources are dispatched to those in need. The caller is often someone who is having the worst day of their life. More often than not, callers are not inside their homes when they experience an emergency. It could be a car accident with serious injuries like we often see on Highway 63, or it could be someone who has fallen in the Birchwood Trails. They use local terminology and landmarks to explain where they are. Locating the area and dispatching the closest ambulance is easier for our local dispatchers because they live here within the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, and they understand the landmarks that are being described to them. Someone in Edmonton, Calgary, or Peace River will not know what is meant when you say the purple building downtown. The boats on the Clearwater or the park with the tall slide in Abasand, but our dispatchers will. Troubleshooting addresses wastes valuable time. On average, our dispatchers have an ambulance on the way almost a minute faster than our AHS counterparts. Dispatchers that handle calls from outside of our region are obviously detrimental to our residents. They will have zero ability to quickly and efficiently dispatch an ambulance to the correct location until they can determine where it is. How will they do that? Who will they ask? You cannot just sit someone down and educate them on all the different nuances of our region. This is an extremely dangerous situation for our residents, not to mention the danger to the crews who could be unknowingly sent into potentially hazardous situations. Steve Buick, a spokesperson for Alberta Health Minister Tyler Shandro, stated that AHS currently handles dispatch for 60% of the population of the province, including a number of other cities similar in size to Fort McMurray, such as Grand Prairie or Medicine Hat. Mr. Mayor, this clearly shows that they don't even understand our region. We aren't just Fort McMurray. We're Anzac, Sapri Creek, Fort Mackay, Fort Chipewyan, Janvier, and Conklin, and all of the land in between. Nobody out there dispatches a region as vast as ours. Nobody. They can't even be bothered to come up and understand who we are as a region. They truly don't care about us as citizens. What I'm talking about today is service delivery and saving lives, providing the best response and service to the citizens we serve. As firefighters, paramedics, and dispatchers, we take that responsibility seriously. We pride ourselves on the efficacy of our response. We pride ourselves in the service we deliver to our citizens. Our current model works, and it's fast and efficient. Why fix something that isn't broken? The amount of money that could potentially be saved is irrelevant compared to the lives that could be lost. Even one life is too many. Under our integrated service model, we dispatch 41% faster than our AHS counterparts. That's a significant difference. The chief paramedic for AHS has said that very few people will die in that time differential. I will tell you that the members of this IFF Local 2494 care about that time. We care about the people who will die or suffer needlessly without pain control or other interventions in that time. The amount of money that AHS claims it will save is not worth that loss or suffering. In closing, I want to be clear that this issue is about people and not politics. Any time delays that could exist are critical to the survival of the patient. Every delay will be so significant that the chance of a poor patient outcome will be substantially increased. Seconds matter during emergencies, and these decisions that increase response times are both callous and incredibly irresponsible. A decision that is so reckless of AHS and the UCP government that they didn't even bother to have any consultation with the involved stakeholders. Alberta used to be one of the most progressive provinces in North America with its pre-hospital care. We are going backwards. These decisions reduce the level of care that our citizens have come to expect. I'm asking Mayor and Council to call on Minister Shandro to do the same as the ministers before him. Reject this decision. market irresponsible and careless. We have often heard that you cannot put a price tag on a life. It sounds to me like AHS and the UCP government is willing to do just that. We can't in good faith stay quiet about this decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that passionate address. And we're certainly grateful for all that you and your team do in this region. If you wouldn't mind remaining, I anticipate you may get some questions or comments. And we're going to go through the list. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment. Rob, thank you for that, your advocacy on that. As I recall, you were very active in this back in 2013-14 when we fought the last battle for the same thing. And so as someone who's boots to the ground, nobody understands this better than you guys. And so I think it's important that we have that voice. I'd love to have your presentation as well that you've written out so that we can continue that same advocacy. It's just, for me, it's just frustrating that once again we're faced with this again when we clearly demonstrated the value of the integrated services that we provide up here. And yet we've got to do it again. And if we win this battle, what happen? What's to say that we're not going to have to fight this battle again in 4 years? This is an Alberta Health Quality Council initiative, and in my opinion, it's an oxymoron to call them that if they're that strong on this position, because it's not going to assist with the quality of health for our residents. So again, thank you for that. And if I'll talk to you offline later, perhaps we can get a copy of your presentation, because it'd be good to have it fresh in our minds as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Councillor Allen. And for those who aren't familiar with it, Councillor Allen was very passionate about this issue as an MLA, and I saw it firsthand. Next, we have Councillor Balsam.
No questions. Just a huge thank you to yourself and all the members and everyone that's working so hard on this. The passion is very obvious, and there's no doubt it's what's best and what's right for our region. So let's keep up fighting on this, and appreciate you coming to speak tonight.
Very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Lalonde.
No, I have no questions. Just thanks for the presentation. It was very passionate regarding Alberta Health taking over our EA.
Mic check 1, 2.